conversation how to pronounce different words.
Conservatory
regional
and
dialect.
mandatory.
Warsh.
Oh, it's not
Mary,
Warsh.
Mary,
There's no R in there.
Mary, Mary, Mary.
There's R in what? Wash.
What?
Wash.
It's
Yeah,
wash.
some people in
There's
the
no
Midwest
R.
pronounce it Warsh. And Washington.
Wash?
Warsh.
Well, there's no
My grandmother
R
did that.
in latte, but idiots call it latte all the bloody time. Pisses me off.
Latte.
Ooh.
Latte.
It's
What
a
idiots?
latte, yes.
Yeah.
LATE something. Which is late, but don't
That's
worry
just
about that.
stupid.
Latte.
Hello, everyone.
Get lost, you lot.
And a warm welcome from the old curmudgeon, as usual.
Yeah. It's my. Actually, I'm
Trying to get
theory.
some nourishment in.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, guys. I have been watching your conversation, just so you know, those of you in the chat room. I just have been ignoring you for the past 20 minutes or so.
Yes, Nav, I got a haircut. Lowered my ears.
Looks good.
Where's your sandwich, Ray? I have no idea where your sandwich is. This is mine.
Well, you can try that, Alex. It ain't gonna work.
Okay. And as usual, I have a different rig set up for this.
Have you been out spending
That
the...
never happened.
No, I know. It's the same old equipment I've always had, just rearranged.
When you got it upside down or something? See if it works
Yeah,
better?
well, speaking of upside down, you should have seen Nick's picture when he first came on the
I
Hangout.
joined the chat, and he was actually upside down.
Upside down.
There you go.
Looked like he was hanging from his feet from his desk or something.
Well, I was having a quiet rest in the wardrobe.
Are they having some sort of gravitational problems in Atlanta today?
Yes. That and thunderstorm problems. I'm glad I wasn't flying in today.
Okay. So, yeah, this will be interesting because I'm going to try to conduct the show using my Samsung tablet as far as the notes are concerned.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know, it's probably ill-advised. But I only have one iPad, that iPad is for
That's what she said.
sound effects.
So
you need more iPads.
I do. So if you have an extra iPad just sitting around, you know where to send it.
I've got an extra one here I'm not using at the moment, Jeff.
Oh, okay. Would you send it to me then?
Well, no, I'll stick it on here for you. Will that help?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. All right, what are we going to say here? Well, I thought
You did?
that I put that in the news. Yeah, I did, actually. Well, it's hard to believe.
How'd it feel?
Not a lot of evidence. Weird. I've never thought
It's
before.
a different experience, I know.
Yeah. Very weird.
Sorry.
How does it feel? Hey, I like the cinema I went to yesterday.
Yeah. That's was it a AMC or was it a Regal?
A Regal.
A
They had
Regal.
VIP lounge with booze and proper food and huge chairs that like big lazy boys. The only thing like the other one that I used to go to in Pasadena was that you didn't have a little call button to bring on a girl in a miniskirt who used to serve you during the movie. And they didn't give you sort of blankets to cuddle under. So you sit there in the aircon freezing.
It's all right. We went to the one movie theater in Salt Lake that actually serves alcohol. So, yes.
Well, I must admit, the movie goes down a lot better with a bit of booze.
Yes. All movies do.
They're wondering who Jilly is.
Who is Jilly? And what has she done with Captain
How
Nick?
does it appear Jilly? Because I've logged in as me.
No, it comes up as Jilly.
Where?
Yeah, your little picture, your little video square.
If I stop
Thumbnail.
talking, or if I am talking, I don't know which one it is, but you look down at the little video screen and it says Steph or Stephanie or whatever it says. I have no idea.
Yeah, you see that on the screen?
Oh, okay. I know I can't.
Yours says
I never
Jilly.
get to see that because it's me.
Exactly.
So, all right, let me just try that bit and go switch person. Oh, bollocks, there's no one to switch to.
And you guys were wondering what we were doing for the past half hour? This is what we've been doing for the past
This
half
kind
hour.
of stuff.
Browse as guest.
Very exciting.
No, that's not good. That won't work. How do I log her out and log me in? I've done it on one screen. No. Damn it. It's Chrome. It thinks I'm my wife.
Probably because that's how you logged in on the computer.
Yeah, that's exactly how I logged in. So I do apologize, folks. When eventually Apple bring out a new MacBook, which is what I've been hanging on for like half the year, and they get their poop in a pile, I will purchase one. I won't take my wife's away with me on trips. Bit late, Jeff.
Hey, the sound effects work on their own time, all right? You can't rush a good sound effect.
Yeah, when I edit it, then it'll sound like it just came immediately.
Yeah, that's right. Good luck with that. I've listened to your editing.
I tightened it up quite a bit, actually.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
See what I mean? Late again.
Hey, it takes me a while to find where the sound effect. I have so many of them.
It's just the speed at which Jeff's brain processes.
Yep.
From his brain to finger to the iPad.
Handy, yes, they know. Our company provides headsets. It's only if we get prima donnas who like to wear their own because they're.
Yeah, I think all airlines provide headsets in their airplanes for the pilots, but most of us bring their own.
Well, I don't.
Is that what you just said?
I think he just called you a prima donna.
Yeah, I did. I snuck that in.
Really?
Jeff didn't even
Very nice.
notice.
No, I didn't even notice.
There you go.
So why am I a prima donna?
Yeah.
You'll have to go back and listen to
I
the...
have no idea,
Okay,
Jeff.
let me go
Why
back.
are you a prima donna?
Touche. All right.
Good beer choice, Nick, by the way.
Thank you very much. Just any decent one I can find in
420. Sweetwater.
CBS.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's all right.
I'm wearing my London Heathrow T-shirt again. I might go for a T-shirt change halfway through the show. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Oh boy.
Costume changes.
Oh yeah.
Let's just
can do
make
all
sure
that
that there are no
Getting fancy
wardrobe malfunctions.
I'm not Janet
Make sure you
Jackson.
step all the way off camera before,
Damn.
or block your screen, or whatever.
Well, you mean they might get to see my tattoo, my A340 tattoo?
Ooh. In that case.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's climbing vertically out of my waistband.
Oh.
That's what she said.
Oh, nice.
I'll just
All
let
right,
your
and good night,
imaginations
everyone.
work on that for a minute.
Why is it?
What is going on? Are we starting this thing?
I don't know.
Oh, haven't we been going for a while?
Well, people have been watching us putz around for a while.
Are we? Should we do a show?
I'm not the
No,
button
no.
pusher.
I mean, I'm just.
I'm just a
whatever.
button pusher's mate. I sit here pushing buttons because the button pusher's late. Come on. It's the APG dirty hour. Yes.
Hello.
All right. Well, it's well past the watershed, so I think we ought to be allowed a little. Do you have a watershed here in the States?
What is that?
Well, it's the time at night when you can start putting rude things on the television.
Yeah, that's not what it's called, I don't think. But
Okay.
I don't know. That line has gotten a little fuzzy in recent years, anyway. So
Yeah, I think at all times it's
it can be kind of risque.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
What is going on with this thing? I'm just trying to get my camera exposure right. It's just
Now you look very orange, like
Yeah,
artificially.
you look like Donald Trump.
A little bit. Oh man, Joe Biden was in town today. He really screwed up traffic in Charlotte over the lunch hour. It's terrible.
Nice.
What, is he not a very good driver?
Apparently, he doesn't drive himself, and we have to block off all of the roads. So whoever is driving him gets him from point A to point B across town. That's all I know.
Apparently, somebody's here in Dayton too, because
really?
I was watching. Yeah, I was watching something. Not that it snarled traffic. It's just that I noticed on one of the cable news networks that it's a Dayton. Or maybe that's just my hotel room that put on there.
Now there's just weird. What are you? Stop doing whatever you're doing to the. It looked fine before.
Yes.
Okay, what? It doesn't look good now.
You kind of look like you're wearing makeup now.
A little bit.
Okay. Let me go. How's that look?
No, you're a bit contrasty. Too contrasty by far.
Okay. I'm trying to.
Lines are really harsh. It's like you're a paper cutout, and you've been.
I am a paper cutout.
Stuck onto the screen. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Just press the
how to fix
auto
this.
button, Jeff.
Well, I'm trying to, but there are other things, other sliders here. I'm trying to get.
I don't know. I don't know what you did. It looks. I don't know.
I don't know either. Who cares?
Your audience, of course.
Yeah. I'm trying to fix it. I just don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to.
Turn it all off and start over.
Oh, that looks good, huh?
No, that looks terrible.
Oh, we got a train driver in the chat room.
A train driver.
Andy, you drive trains. I used to bowl with a bloke who drove trains. He used to drive those huge, great big sort of cargo trains around the States. And he was on a new route, and his conductor was supposed to know the route. And they went, trundling on down and through the night. And there was a signal out, and when he got to the next signal, it was red, so he banged the brakes on, and there was supposed to be a siding in front of him where another train had pulled in, and when they looked ahead, came around the corner, there was this train. It was halfway into the siding and halfway still on their line because it was a single track, and they looked at this train and went, no, we ain't going to stop in time. So they all stepped out the cab and jumped off into the darkness. And their train full of cars out of Detroit or something plowed into this other one. And there was then the most enormous wreck.
Jeez.
Absolutely brilliant. So he ended up going into teaching. Became a teacher instead of a train driver.
Sensible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. He's a funny bloke, though.
You guys still doing the show?
Kinda.
Yeah. Why did you you're going to watch the news while we do the show? I mean, that's an interesting.
I got a little bit bored with that story, so sorry.
I tried to get my TV to pluck pictures off my phone, but it wouldn't recognize it. It's a bit unfair, really.
Mm.
I'm going to have to just put some pictures on a dongle.
Dongle?
You're gonna take some pictures of your dongle?
Watch out! The chat room's going to start moderating your comments.
Oh, is that right?
Okay.
Well, all the Brits know what a dongle is.
Well, you could enlighten us non-Brits, maybe.
You can have two dongles if you have many dongles if you want. You guys might call it a thumb drive.
Yeah. USB drive, thumb drive.
Yeah, we
call it a dongle?
Oh, yeah. Back me up, Nev. What do you call it? He's going to come up with something silly now.
He's going to say thumb drive. Jump drive is another. Yeah, thank you,
drive.
Sandy. Jump drive, thumb drive, USB key, USB drive. All of those are acceptable. I've never heard dongle. Yeah, see, Pip is with me.
You see?
Oh, Neville, come on.
Yep, a dongle. Thank you, Neville.
See, I always learn something when I come on the show, so
You had nothing useful.
doesn't matter. Listen,
I love it.
most of the space of my brain is taken up by useless information, but
Oh, wow, that's all right.
it's good for parties, conversation starters.
Where the hell has Jeff gone now?
You don't know.
I mean,
Like the
that'll
next time
be
I'm
the
at
name
a
of this
cocktail
show.
party, I'm just going to say, "Hey, do you want to see my dongle?" And all of my friends will be horrified. I'll be like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah, exactly right.
What is wrong with this thing? I set this up. It worked earlier.
Sure it did.
Yeah, we believe you, Jeff.
That's what she said.
It did.
You know, everyone, Jeff has not been in his room sorting out all his tech stuff. He's been in the bar buying beer and sandwiches.
Yes.
Just for the last 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I have started using the word kit. Funny how that
Ah,
stuff rubs
very
off on you.
There you go.
I'm with Micah there. People seem to understand that though. They intuitively know what you mean. Dongle's a little bit different. I think people would assume something different.
They would, of course, but
They would.
we know
Absolutely.
it's a harmless word.
Uh-huh.
Unless, well, it depends what you keep on your dongle. If you've got rude things on your dongle, then it wouldn't be harmless. I've made Steph spit beer.
Yeah, pretty close.
That's alcohol abuse. You're not
It
allowed
is.
to do that.
It is. Party foul.
And now Barbara's saying she likes my doggy photos.
I know.
Oh dear. If
What has happened?
some
This
casual
show has-
observer reads this, they're going to go, and Nix does doggy photos? What's that all about?
She just said doggy photos. There's nothing wrong with that. Your doggy photos are fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. You have
Woof,
lovely dogs.
woof,
Very
woof.
central.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, that's
Forget that.
nice black screen.
And now he's broken the hotel remote. So
Yeah, you see, anything more advanced than a mad dog, it frustrates Jeff, so... Someone was suggesting Anderson
yeah, you have some requests for the Weather Channel. People just want to
Weather
watch
Channel?
Weather Channel. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can get that remote.
Now, I didn't go there, Pilot Pip. I was saying
Okay, I think
dogging,
it still works.
not dogging. But there you go.
So sad. So sad.
Man, I'm already
Does
on to
anybody know
beer
what
number.
channel it is?
I don't know what it is in Dayton, Ohio. It's different
Oh,
everywhere.
come on.
You're close, I'm sure, because you're on the news channels. Some horrible violence scene going on there. Death and destruction.
On the Weather Channel. Yep.
No, that was the... Well, sometimes on the Weather Channel. I had it
Come
on the other
on.
night, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and it was like this Survivors show of people who would
It's
survive
144.
horrific
Of course.
weather calamities and catastrophes.
The APG Weather Show.
There you go.
Okay.
There's probably some copyright restriction about you rebroadcasting the show.
YouTube's going to flag it.
Yeah, but they only look for the audio, so here, let me mute it. They won't hear it. There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, we're only 45 minutes late.
Right on time.
Shut up. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, no, we're good, because I finished my first beer. So,
Well, I might have to go and get another one. And then you're going to need to go for a pee soon.
probably. Are we playing
Yeah,
Plain Tales pretty early?
Yes, that's our pee time.
I'll have to listen to
Okay.
it later, Nick. I'm sorry.
Well, it's only 9 minutes long this time, so
Oh, plenty
you
of
need to have to pee quick.
Make it a quick pee.
time. Okay. Right on.
All right. Excuse me. Oh, this is gonna be a good one. I can tell.
Gonna be a winner.
Not.
Oh, pardon me.
A lot of
I'll
frogs.
save mine for after we turn off the...
A lot of frogs in the rooms.
I can't let people know that I actually do that kind of thing. Because I don't. I definitely don't.
We believe you.
No, she's never ever.
Never.
I've never heard her burp.
Never belched.
No.
Never.
Actually,
Why
the
is it
last,
that
the
I
last
have-
show will take some beating. I've just listened back to that. That just hilarious. Particularly when Al was
Okay.
muted.
That was a lot of work editing that episode. Let me just
Last
say
episode?
that.
Yeah. I'm still
Yeah.
listening through it, but I'll get there.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we're ready. Let's see how this sounds.
Flight 209, are you ready for takeoff?
Did that completely blow out your ears?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I need to turn up the volume on it. Just kidding.
I mean, it was comfortable volume-wise.
Okay.
Your
Okay,
bandwidth
testing.
might be a
Testing.
little bit dodgy, Jeff. You've gone fuzzy.
Oh, lovely. Well, I did a check before we started, and I had like 17 or 18 down and 15 up.
Oh,
Well, I
wow.
can still
should
hear
not-
you, okay, so that's fine.
Yeah. Your audio's
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, so the video is kind of crappy?
A little bit for
A
me.
little.
Steph's looks clean as a whistle.
Nick's looks pretty good, too.
Ooh.
Well, I'll leave you two alone.
Oh, now your audio
Well,
sucks.
They've dropped out completely.
Then,
Hit something.
am I gone completely now?
Yeah.
Your video is, yeah.
Oh, you're coming
Okay.
back again, but yeah.
Not
Why is it
really.
doing that?
Oh, there you are.
Hypoxia, mate. You keep blacking out.
Okay, so let me do a quick speed test here and see what's going on. Oh, I hear myself echoing through Nick's headset again.
No, you can't.
I do.
They're stuck in my bloody ears. Unless I got
Well,
a
you,
hollow
must,
head
you must be deaf or something. Have
Hollow
that
He's
thing
got
up
it,
all
like,
the way.
turned up to 11.
coming out through my nose. I don't know.
Have you tried turning the volume down a little bit?
Well, yeah, then I wouldn't better hear you, banana.
Oh, you know what? All my great bandwidth that I had is now gone.
Yeah.
Because everybody is probably in their
6:45.
hotel rooms watching Netflix.
5:45. Uh-oh.
I think it's just because Jeff doesn't like spending the coffee fund, so he never goes for the upgrade on the hotel Wi-Fi.
Speed. Can you hear me at all?
Sometimes.
Yeah, a bit jumpy. No,
Okay. No, I have the highest speed. They give it to us for free, and there's no other option.
Oh.
Yeah. So now I'm 1/10 of where I was before I started the show.
Ooh.
That's not good.
Okay. Do I need
See,
to try the
that's
hotspot on
An argument for starting on time.
Well, I mean, like 2 hours ago.
Well, I would have just been late.
Okay.
Like an
So
hour.
I'm going to try the hotspot.
I like what Stephen Ivy says. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, your flight has been delayed due to a high influx of Netflix at your destination. Alcohol may also have caused this delay."
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Jeff had to very
observation.
carefully carry 2 pints of IPA down from the bar.
It's tricky. Don't want to spill that.
Do they put cling film over the top of it, Jeff, so you get it down without spilling it?
What?
What?
Can you see me now?
Kinda.
Off and on.
Okay. Let me do a check on this. I just switched to the iPhone hotspot.
Mm.
Well, we can hear you better.
Oh, this sucks too.
I prefer cling film, Micah. It's a bit more descriptive. Plastic wrap could apply to so many things.
What'd you call it?
When
Clean
you-
wrap?
Okay.
When
there you go.
finish the plastic
That's
show,
better.
you'd say, that's a plastic wrap.
No,
No,
I'm
you
pretty sure
don't.
plastic wrap only refers to the clear plastic stretchy stuff that you put over.
Cling film.
Plastic wrap.
Cling film.
Let's just say it. The Brits do everything properly, and we don't. We screw everything up.
God forbid that should be true. We'd be all
That's
living
pretty
100
much the-
years in the past.
Are we?
Okay. So is this any better than it was on the hotel Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Well, at
Really?
least
You're just
there.
saying that, so we start the show.
No, it's better. I
Okay.
wouldn't lie to you.
No, you'd never lie to me, Steph.
Nope. It's not what I do.
Yeah, you're not cutting out anymore. I wouldn't say it's a brilliant signal, though.
No, it's not fantastic, but it's better than it was.
Let me lower the bandwidth on the thing, so maybe it'll be a little bit better. It's on auto right now, so
actually, that's stabilized, and I've gone completely.
What?
That actually is not bad. Video.
Yeah, I turned down the bandwidth on the in the Google Hangouts window.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks good.
Well, funny enough, you're bigger.
Yeah, I don't. Thank you for noticing.
That's what she said.
Oh dear.
I'm back.
What were we talking about? What are we doing here?
We're starting the show.
I don't know.
What?
Get this show on the road.
What are we doing here? Okay, I backed out a little bit there. I zoomed
starting
out.
on beer number 2 is what I'm doing.
Okay, well, I'm starting on beer number 2 as well.
This will go well.
Yeah, this is going to be a great show. Not really. Okay. Here we go. I really don't know what I'm going to say, but I really never do. So it'll be.
You have it all written out.
No, I don't. I only have like some stuff written out.
All you have to say is, in this episode, Sully, more news, feedback.
Okay. Why don't you do it?
No.
Okay.
People will be all confused. I'm going to mute myself.
All right. Bye. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 237.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff?
Hello. You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 436 in the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Dayton, Ohio. In this episode, the Sully movie, more news, and your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 237 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I'm Captain Jeff, your host. I'm an airline pilot for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And also joining us today from the Carolinas, we have the wonderful Dr. Steph.
Hello. I was waiting to hear if there was going to be any intro music, but I guess not. So
yeah, I was just looking over here at my
it's fine. Don't worry about that at all.
To find the intro music.
It's not important. I just wanted to make sure I didn't step on top of it.
Okay.
Huh?
Now.
Nah, don't worry about it. You've already.
Here we go.
There we go.
Doctor Steph.
Doctor.
Well, hey, how's it going? Good to be back with you lovely gentlemen pilots again. Missed you guys last week, but I am finally back in the Carolinas, as Captain Jeff said. And for those of you who don't know, I am Dr. Steph. I'm a physician here in the Charlotte area of North/South Carolina, and I'm also a commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, and I fly a lot for fun on my own, but recently just seem to do a lot of airline travel where I'm not the pilot. So
you have been traveling a lot. We'll hear a little bit about your travels here in just a second, but first, let us introduce a captain for a European airline flying wide-body Airbuses. His name, Captain Nick Anderson.
Hey, hi there, Jeff. Hi, Steph. Great to be back on the show. And as that lovely music fades into the distance, I introduce myself as exactly as Jeff said. I'm a big bloke from the UK who flies wide-body Airbuses, and that's my job. I'm currently over in Atlanta, so that puts me the wrong side of the world. But there you go. I'll be heading off tomorrow back to Blighty. In the meantime, a wonderful opportunity to be back here on the APG show.
And it's always a pleasure to have you with us on the show as one of the regular APG crew. Last week, Steph, we really missed you, but we had a great time. I don't know if you have had a chance to listen to it.
Chance to listen to about half of it so far, and I really thought I was going to get a chance to listen to all of it before I got back today, but yeah, I was just kind of.
But it's busy. Just such a dang long show.
It was,
but,
you had recorded for like 3 hours. I don't know why that
I don't
happens.
know what's wrong with us.
No. I've had a chance to listen to half of it, and it's fantastic as always, and awesome job. Thanks to who'd you have with you? Micah and Nev and Captain Al. They're excellent guest hosts, and looking forward to the rest of that episode as well. There were some interesting topics of conversation, I will say, but yes, I laughed as usual. I've learned a few things, and it was a great episode.
Yeah, I learned.
I enjoyed that show enormously. I'm just glad Pilot Pip wasn't there. He would have ruined it completely.
Oh, I know. I mean, I put out a call, like a general call to some of the folks, and I'm just so glad that Pip didn't see it.
Yeah, exactly right. So there you go. We managed to keep plate safety out of it again.
Well, yeah, last week it was just, gosh, when did you record last week? I can't even remember.
That was like
Monday
Tuesday,
or
I think.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Well, I think I had just gotten back from Alaska, which is the last time I recorded with you guys. I was in Alaska on vacation with my dad. And then I got back and I had to work it was Tuesday. Because then I had to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I left from work and got back on another plane and flew out to Salt Lake City, which is where a lot of my family lives, both my brothers and my sister. And had the great idea that I should run a half marathon out there in Big Cottonwood Canyon, which was all downhill. We started at like I forget the exact altitudes, but like 7,600 feet, and it ended at like 4,300 feet. So it's 13 miles of 3,000 plus foot drop. So today I'm a little sore. I have a few blisters on my feet. I'm probably going to lose a couple toenails, but it was worth it because I dropped 17 minutes off of my fastest ever half marathon time. So,
all right.
It was good.
And that's worth 2 toenails?
Yeah, sure.
At least.
They grow back. I've lost toenails before from running.
Sounds like so much fun.
Oh, yes. You ought to see a doctor.
I should. Do you know one?
A psychologist.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
So, was this on like a prepared trail, or was it on?
No, it's just on the road. It's the road that goes up to Solitude and Brighton ski resorts for anyone who's familiar with the area. It's actually right near where I went to high school, just outside of Salt Lake City. So I'm actually very familiar with the area. We spent a whole lot of time skiing up there when I was a kid. My friend Karen, who lives in the Greenville, Spartanburg area, came out and she ran the full marathon, which is an absolutely insane course. I only did half of it, so she was having a little bit of a rough time. You should have seen the two of us getting off the plane last night. We actually had to sit and wait for everyone else to get off the plane because we literally couldn't stand up or walk.
Did they
I had to try and retrieve my bag from the overhead.
They say, do you need a wheelchair, ladies?
I almost asked if we could ride on the cart because it took us a good. We were the last people to show up to retrieve our bags from the baggage carousel, and they were actually like pulling the bags off because it was like midnight, so they wanted to get out of there. I was like, no, wait, that's my friend's bag. I need that, and yeah, it took us a little bit of extra time last night, but we'll live, and it was a good experience and good to see my family as always. So I love Salt Lake City. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a great town. Great town. Well, Nick, have you been? I know you're on a trip right now. You flew into Atlanta, got in last night, and you'll leave tomorrow. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. This is a 48-hour layover for us because we'd normally do this trip with 3 pilots, but we made an agreement with the company that we would come out with 2 on the understanding that we got a little longer layover and we get a few extra days off at the end to recover because obviously it's quite a long flight for just 2 guys. Flight time yesterday was 8 hours and 55 minutes, so that wasn't the longest one I've done out here, but it's certainly stretching it with regards to our contract. It's okay in our flight duty period, that's not too bad. But we're contracted to have an extra pilot if the flight time gets too long. Just try and keep things as safe as possible.
Okay. Well, excellent. Looks like we're doing the show live, YouTube live streaming, and we have a live chat room. And amongst the membership of the chat room tonight is Jennifer, And apparently Jennifer is celebrating a birthday today, so there's only one
is.
thing to do, and that's to boot her out of the chat room.
Hi, Jen.
Happy birthday,
No.
Jen.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Brilliant.
birthday to you. Happy
Squash
birthday to
tomatoes and
you.
stew. Bread and
Happy
butter.
birthday, dear
Governor.
Jennifer.
Happy birthday to
Happy birthday to you.
Steph, sing anymore.
I
What?
don't sing.
All right.
But, you know,
unless we found something that Steph can't do. You know, it's taken a while.
Oh, no. I've been upfront about this from the beginning. I can't sing.
But
And
not
you're
the
welcome,
point.
Jen, for me. Happy birthday.
That's your gift.
That's your gift from me to you. Happy birthday.
Oh, marvelous.
So I've had some interesting adventures since our last show.
Yeah, what happened to you?
Well, first of all, let's see. On my regular trip last week, I was flying through Monday through Wednesday. I think it was the last leg from LaGuardia to Atlanta. We were flying an MD-90, which has the International Aero Engines V2528 high bypass turbofan, which is not only used on the 90s but also on several of the Airbus 320 series. And I did the walk around because it was the co-pilot's leg on the way back. And I was walking around and thought, you know, normally on the Pratt & Whitney JT8Ds on our 80s, we sometimes see some oil, you know, on the cowling, and it's not unusual to see some oil, as long as it's not like dripping, you know, like gushing out of the engine. It's pretty normal. But on the on these engines, no, it is.
Sure, if you say so.
Yeah, it's just these are old engines, just like the old pilots that fly them. Occasionally, you'll see some oil. You just kind of look the other way. Yeah. Anyway, so looked at the cowling of this larger, you know, high bypass fan. And I'm thinking, there is oil all over this thing, and I've never ever seen oil on the outside of this engine on the 90. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of weird. Maybe I should have somebody take a look at this. And so the mechanics came out and they lowered the cowling on the thing. They had to get a lift truck up there to look at it, and there was a leak. He said, well, actually what he said is, I think what happened here is that the oil cap was put on, but it wasn't quite all the way on, so that's where we think the oil is coming from. And we went, okay. So they serviced it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they serviced it up to 21 quarts of oil, and so we set off for Atlanta, and about halfway to Atlanta, kind of looked down at the instruments, and now it was reading, about 15 or so, 14, 15. I'm thinking, okay, some oil has left the engine. And then about 3/4 of the way through, we were looking at it going, oh, it's kind of dropping even more now. Now it's like 7, and then 6. And then we're thinking, uh-oh, is this thing going to make it to Atlanta without having to shut it down? So we're looking at the engine oil temperature on that engine and oil pressure, and they were all normal. And so we started looking through the QRH checklist, the quick reference handbook, to see, if there is something that covers this, and, decreasing oil. And basically it says that as long as these other parameters are okay, you can continue to operate the engine normally. But we just kept looking at it, thinking that there's going to be a point at which there's going to be no oil in this engine and it's going to shut down, or we're going to have to shut it down. So we kind of briefed all the different emergency procedures, what we were going to do if we were on final. We were going to continue to shut it down and continue and land and etc. But it got all the way down to 2 quarts, half a gallon,
2?
from 21.
And wait, how many is it supposed to have? 21.
We started off with 21, and it was down to 2, and we landed and taxied in and left the airplane. Said, it's all yours, maintenance. And they said, oh yeah, you got a big leak out there. They said there was oil all over the place. So, but luckily we managed to make it all the way to. One of the mechanics said, who was kidding around, of course, he said it was supposed to go from Atlanta to West Palm Beach. He goes, well, you just flew from New York, right? And it made it okay, so we're just going to fill it up, and it'll be okay going down.
It'll
West
be fine. You'll have plenty to make it to West Palm Beach. Well, Steve Horn in the chat room says it's a real chemtrail.
Yeah, that's right. We were leaving chemtrails for sure. Hopefully nobody was breathing any of our contaminated toxic air.
Did you
Yeah.
actually get to see where the leak was, Jeff?
No, it was the last leg of the trip. I needed to go home.
At that point, doesn't matter.
I didn't
It's
care.
oil
Somebody
leak.
else's problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had that, and then so I got home Wednesday, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to pick up some extra time for the month. I put in a request for some extra flying. I got a call on Thursday morning from our scheduling, and they said we have a 2-day trip for you that meets your parameters that you put in, and said that you're going to do a maintenance ferry flight from Atlanta to QRO. And I said, QR what?
Where is that?
What is that?
I'm not familiar with this airport.
I've seen these kind of trips in the pot before, but usually they're line check airmen or functional check flight qualified pilots do this kind of stuff, but not usually line pilots. And so I said, are you sure I can do this? And they said, yeah, we did. We checked everything, and it says that you can do it. And I went, oh, okay. So I thought, well, this would be an adventure. So, and it was. QRO is the ICAO, or is it the ICAO? Yeah. Code is MMQT in Mexico, about, 100 miles or so northwest of Mexico City, in the high terrain in the mountains up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Querétaro, I think. Querétaro? I don't know.
Querétaro?
Something like
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's like an accent thing on there on the middle. Re. Yeah, that sounds good.
Where's Rick when you need him?
I don't know. He would know how to pronounce that.
Rick?
But so I thought, you know what? Flying into high terrain, I just hope that we can get this thing there before it gets dark, because I don't like flying around high terrain in a place I've never been. If I can help it. So there was some snags. We waited at the gate in Atlanta. It was supposed to be at E34, and then maintenance called and said, "Where are you guys?" And we're at the gate. We're waiting for the airplane. And they said, "Oh, we thought you were going to come over here to the hangars." So they sent somebody to go pick us up. We got off about 2.5 hours after they said that we were going to be leaving, but we did actually make it in before the sunset, and it was very, very beautiful, that Querétaro, Mexico. And then we took a van into town. It was like a 45-minute drive. It was just took forever, which normally wouldn't be a bad thing, except that we had to be back the next morning. I think our flight that they had us booked on was a United Express flight on a ERJ 175 from there to Houston Intercontinental, and that left at 5:30 in the morning. And so we had to go through customs and all that kind of stuff. So, somebody you may be wondering about the reason why we had to fly this ferry flight, this airplane down there. They, during an inspection, had discovered a crack in the wing spar. And I said, "A crack in the wing spar? Are you sure that we should fly this airplane?" "Yeah, well, we can't use it for, passenger service, but pilots are expendable." Apparently. "Do I get any extra pay for doing this?" "No." Okay. They said, so they stressed to me that it's safe. It's just not airworthy. So the logbook, normally we look in the logbook for an airworthiness sign-off by the mechanics. There was no airworthiness sign-off, so because the airplane was not airworthy.
Have you worked out by now, Jeff, why a line pilot was doing this and not someone else?
Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know why I was qualified to do it, but
because everyone else turned it.
Yeah, everybody said I'm not doing that. So apparently there's like a 1/4-inch crack in and the guy showed me a picture of it in the inspection. One of the points where some structure goes through the wing spar, there was a 1/4-inch crack in that, and they said, yeah, that's not good. So it's one of the first and Mad Dogs that we took delivery of back in 1988 or whatever.
Stone Ages.
Yeah, it's one of our old ones, and so they said, yeah, it's safe, and then they had a list of things that we were to avoid. Avoid flight into known turbulence. Avoid excessive descent rates. Avoid aggressive
maneuvering. Did they
maneuvering.
define excessive descent rates, or they just
they just said
up to you to?
Oh yeah, and they just left it to us to figure out, and then
pilot's discretion.
No touch and goes. And I'm thinking, well, why did they have to put that on there? We're not allowed to do touch and goes anyway. But anyway, so we
I just
flew it
wanted to
down
practice some touch and goes.
there.
Thought this would be a good opportunity.
We flew it down. There was some weather around the Lake Charles, Louisiana area, but we avoided it without a problem and got into a little bit of light turbulence here and there, but it wasn't like we were hanging on, hoping that the wing wouldn't break off. So yeah, that was interesting. So got back. Oh, here's the other interesting thing. They had us set up for that United Express flight in the morning at 5:30, arriving in Houston at 7:41, and then they had us deadheading on an Acme flight at 8:15. And I went, okay,
Wait,
so
what times?
yeah, like 34 minutes turn time. And I
Yeah.
said, so we got to go into Houston Intercontinental in a different concourse and go through customs and immigration, and then somehow get over to our A concourse and get on an airplane.
In
and fly
34
to it.
minutes.
Yeah.
Can you run?
Well,
What's
if
your
I'd run, I may have made it.
What's your 100-meter sprint time?
Not very fast.
Not very fast.
So, and there wasn't really a line at all in customs, and we actually made it within a couple of minutes before they pushed back and left us. So we had to take the next one 3 hours later. I think what they must do is they say, you know what, we're going to give you a shot at making this, and if you can't, then we'll just move you to
Just
the
get
next one. Yeah.
Because those are your two options anyway, probably.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. If you can
No.
make the earlier one, by all
Right.
means, get on.
You're
the
all
plane.
set up for it if you can. So anyway, so that was my adventure on Thursday and Friday, and then today I had
More adventures.
well, not really too much of an adventure. We flew with an airplane from Atlanta to New Orleans and back to Atlanta, and it did just fine. And we were going to keep that airplane up here, Dayton. And I was doing the walk around, and one of the little ports on the left engine was just leaking a lot of oil, and like making a big puddle of oil on the ground.
More
I'm thinking,
oil problems?
yeah, more oil problems. I don't know what it is with
Jeez.
oil and me. So I said, that's more than normal, even for these old JT8Ds. So I had a mechanic come out there, and they go, oh, yeah, there's something leaking there. Thank you. I knew that. So they lowered the thing, and a de-oiler? I'm not even sure what that means. I think he's making that up. But anyway, some kind of a component in the oil system and bearings and something or other. They said it's going to be at least 2 or 3 hours before we fix this. So had to get everybody off the airplane and move to a different gate, and we took another airplane up here. So there's my adventure for the last week. So
Well, they say they come in threes, Jeff. So
You had them all.
another oil.
No, that was
incident.
3, I think. Well,
Was it?
well, not 3 oils. You only had 2.
Yeah.
2 oil.
Depends how you're
and
going to
that
group these 3.
Maintenance flight.
Hey, so when I got back
Which
from
is-
QRO on Friday night, even having to get up, I got up at like 3:15 in the morning, so I didn't have a lot of sleep. But I was determined to stay up late so I could go to my local cinema and enjoy the AMC Prime Theater. Only a handful of these things in the country. It has Dolby something, Atmos Studio something. It's a fancy, beautiful, big, wide reclining chairs and everything else. 9:40 showing because I had to wait until we were finished with dinner and all that kind of stuff. And I went by myself to see the movie Sully. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. Sully, have you all had a chance to see the movie? Because that was your homework.
I listened
on
to
the last
enough of
show.
last week's episode to know that was my homework because no one was
Right.
going to tell me about this, apparently. I just had to figure it out on my own that I was supposed to watch the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Steph.
Get with the
But
program,
I
Steph.
figured-
Come on.
I got
Didn't
it.
you get my
I got
message?
it.
I sent you a message that said
No
go see the
one
movie.
sent me any messages.
Yeah.
I'm not holding it against you
Jeff,
guys, but I'm just
It
saying.
was like you and me on individual chat. It wasn't the group chat channel.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, Pip doesn't want any spoilers, though.
bad luck, Pip.
Well, I
He
mean,
crashes.
the whole thing is a spoiler because we already know what happened.
In fact, they start
the
with the
Titanic.
spoiler. So.
You know what happens in the end.
I don't think there's anything to spoil, is there?
There really isn't, no. And
No.
it doesn't even matter if we talk about what I think we're going to talk about because you can still watch the movie and enjoy it just the same.
Yes. So if you're very sensitive about that, Pip, I think you should leave now. Go.
Yes.
I like to point out, Jeff, that this movie isn't released in the UK till December.
December.
So I had to
Oh, well,
get
we're
on
not
a
going to
flight,
wait.
come all
We're
the
not-
way out to Atlanta just to see the damn thing so that we could discuss it on the show.
Well, if you think I'm going to wait until December, people,
We're
to
not.
talk about this movie, you're crazy.
You're
We're
gonna,
just
you
gonna
know
go.
what's gonna happen though? You're gonna listen to what we say now, and then you're gonna forget it because that's how important it is, our opinions.
Oh,
Yeah.
And you'll go see it in December or whenever it's released, wherever you happen to be in the world, and you'll enjoy it just the same.
Yep.
So there.
That's right.
But you already know the outcome, and I'm gonna ruin it right now. Ready?
Big
The birds
splash.
die.
Birds die. You know, funny you should mention that, Steph. There is an agency, an organization who was quite upset about the movie. And
Well, I think there was
the
a
fact,
review. Yeah.
yeah, there's a report. Let me turn this. I'm going to turn on the echo button. So just beware. If you're going to talk, you're going to hear yourself. So let's listen to a little bit of this since Steph has already broached this very, very sensitive subject.
I'll never get over how beautiful it is up here.
Life's easier in the air.
This is Peter Rosenthal, head film critic for The Onion. Today I'll be discussing Sully, Clint Eastwood's dramatic portrayal of Captain Chesley Sullenberger's heroic emergency landing on the Hudson River, but also a sadly one-sided recounting that ignores the geese who were tragically killed in the turbines of U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Although Eastwood deftly depicts the struggles of Captain Sullenberger and the other people in the film, the same cannot be said for the geese, whose horrifying deaths occupy so little screen time, they seem almost erased from a story that actually concerns them as much as the human characters, if not more so.
And if you want to hear more about this special report, I'll have a link to it in the show notes. But it's shocking, actually.
It's very touching.
So little regard.
Very
It is.
sad.
For our web footage.
Of course, that is again from from The Onion, and of course, most of you should know that The Onion is a satire site. Used to be a satire
Paper.
newspaper, but I'm not sure if they. Still
I don't think
put
they
out a
print
paper or
anything. I
not.
think it's just all online. I think.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a printed.
very funny.
Yeah,
Copy
I
of the
love
Onion in
chicken
ages.
satire, particularly with peanut sauce. It's very nice.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, what was your impression, Steph?
So my impression, and actually, this is a little spoiler for something we're getting to later on in our news because it's, and I didn't actually read this article before this was my impression of the movie itself, but I mean, as far as accuracy goes, I think they were, in terms of the aviation stuff, I thought they did a pretty good job for a Hollywood movie. You guys can probably give us a little bit more insight into that, but they really didn't focus a whole lot on a lot of that technical detail, I guess, but I came away thinking it seemed very one-sided, kind of. It made the NTSB out to be the bad guys. There was a very accusatory tone from the side of the NTSB towards the pilots, and my only real impression as I left the movie was, gosh, I think I'd be kind of upset if I were the NTSB over this movie. That was my thought. But I like the movie. I thought the movie was really well done. I thought the acting was good. I thought the portrayals of the pilots were good. I thought the the reenactments were all well done.
Well, as Stephanie mentioned, there is an article from Bloomberg Reports talking about the fact that the crash investigators have panned their casting as the villains in the Sully movie. Let's see. Let me get to this article.
I mean, my impression of the NTSB is that it's pretty well-rounded generally, and when they're conducting investigations, and it wouldn't have made for good cinema to show all of that. It makes for good air crash investigation shows, but it wouldn't have made for a good movie to show all of that detail. And I think that's why it comes off so one-sided. But I think if you really saw all of the behind the scenes and all of that, it would be a much more well-rounded investigation and look into what happened on that day, as opposed to what they actually just showed in the movie. Not saying that the stuff that happened in the movie didn't happen necessarily, but it was just.
It's the way of presenting it.
They picked the dramatic points out.
Yeah, I think you're right. According to Robert Benson, a 27-year NTSB veteran who oversaw the investigation before retiring in 2012, I think we're getting the dirty end of the stick here. From what I hear, this is somewhere between Sharknado 2 and Sharknado 3. I just hope it isn't as bad as everyone is telling me it is. And basically, they did, as Steph just told us, kind of depict the NTSB investigators as really harsh and cold and accusatory, etc.
And I mean, I know what they were going for. They were trying to, show the personal, human, emotional struggle that Sully was probably going through with all that. And if you put yourself in his shoes afterwards, that's of course the stuff you're going to be. If you were the pilot on that flight, that's what you're going to be worried about, So they were trying to show that aspect of it, but it was very much the majority of what they showed during the movie.
Yeah. According to Malcolm Brenner, a retired NTSB specialist in human behavior, who was part of the team that first interviewed Sullenberger in the days after the accident, if there were questions, it was to learn things. There was no effort to crucify him or embarrass him. And they said that his job is normally to deconstruct the disturbing performance of flight crews who had caused a crash, recalling that he was pleased to have participated in a case where the two pilots worked well together and made good decisions. He said, personally, I was very impressed. So I guess they kind of feel like, whoa, where is this coming from?
Yep.
But of course it wouldn't have made a really good Hollywood story if there wasn't some villain in this, right?
Well, I like the NTSB statement. They said the drama of Flight 1549 is a movie-worthy moment in aviation history. However, the NTSB was not asked to contribute to or participate in the production of Sully, and as such, we are not afforded an opportunity to ensure our actions and words were portrayed with accurate context or reflected our perspective.
Well, that was spoiled everything if they had a chance.
It would have ruined the drama.
But
like I said, I enjoyed the movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I really enjoyed the movie from a dramatic standpoint. Just keep that in mind that you're, maybe not seeing the entire scope of the investigation. You're just seeing one little aspect of it in the movie.
Right. What'd you think, Kevin?
Well, I thought it was a gripping movie. Maybe just because I'm an airline pilot. I really enjoyed it. Not a lot of movies that I will just sit and really get involved in and enjoy throughout. I loved the portrayal of Sully, and I really felt like I was in his seat. Not so much during the flight, but afterwards, as he tried to come to grips with the enormity of what he'd undergone. You're right, Steph. I agree entirely that the NTSB were portrayed as the bad boys in the movie, and that little turning at the end when the final outcome of the investigation was revealed was, I thought, just not very well handled. It was all a bit crass. But what I really liked was Tom Hanks' portrayal of Sully and his wife, and the incredible pressure he was under from the media, from just being a Joe Shag airline pilot doing his job all day, every day, to suddenly be under this incredibly bright spotlight. I thought they did that very well indeed. And I found it, from that point of view, an excellent movie. Really good.
Yeah.
So, I agree that when you tell a story, you've got to find a turning point. You've got to find somewhere to pivot the story, somewhere to make it an interesting ending. I just don't think that was perhaps the best way they could have done it. I think the NTSB would rightfully say, as they did, that the feeling this movie portrayed may persuade some pilots not to be forthcoming in subsequent investigations, because they have an impression that the NTSB is just out there to crucify them and not to just help them come to terms with the situation and investigate it properly. So from that point of view, I have sympathy with them. But from a pure entertainment point of view, great movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie, and I couldn't agree with you more, Captain Nick, that I think the human side of it, the emotional side of it, trying to put yourself in Sully's shoes and understanding what he might have been going through in those days afterwards, that was very, very well done.
Yeah.
Because you really got a sense of the stress and pressure. And I mean, can you even imagine? It's most of us have been in a car accident per se. You think back to that type of stuff that happens, and you have bad dreams about that. Now, take that situation that's like times 100, times 1,000, times 1,000,000. Imagine the nightmares you're going to have about that, the thoughts you're going to have about that. Like, the decision making process goes over and over in your head however many millions of times, and I think they did a really good job of showing the stress of that whole situation.
I don't know if that final sort of courtroom-esque scene in the final moments of the movie was accurate, but all those teams of lawyers and all the pressure with the press and the investigators and all the unfolding of the information, I don't know whether that was representative or that might happen for real, but it really did make me think, oh my God, should this ever happen to me? I would be, landing the airplane would be the least of my problems.
Right.
So I don't think real life is like that. At least I hope not.
I don't think it was, actually. That was one of the parts of the film that was kind of Hollywooded up a bit. And if you want, I'll put a link to the actual U.S. Airways 1549 NTSB Sunshine meeting, where they based a lot of this NTSB meeting on, and you'll see how it was really conducted. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there were some things in this dramatization involving simulator crews in Toulouse, France, and they were watching it live on a live feed, which did not happen. But all the factual details were included in that. It's just the way they presented it was much more dramatic in the movie, and I understand why.
And a little condensed time.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of put it all together in one big dramatic ending, as opposed to probably the very long, drawn-out time frame that it.
It was probably much more drip feed, and that doesn't make for a dramatic ending.
Not really.
Right.
Not really.
Right.
It doesn't make for good movies.
So, Captain Nick, you mentioned, putting yourself in his shoes. And so that was the weirdest thing about for me watching this film, is I felt like, oh my gosh, I felt like not only was I identifying with the Sully guy, not having anything to do with his talent and skill and everything else. It's just that there are so many things about him and his life that are paralleled in my own. And for instance, being in the Air Force, we were both in the Air Force. We were both safety officers in the Air Force. We both went through pilot training in Columbus, Mississippi. We both got hired on with the airlines after our initial commitment in the Air Force. He flew fighters. He flew F-4s and I think he was an instructor pilot in the Air Force, and I flew a different airplane, a 141. And then even going into his age, when this happened to him, he was 57 years old, just about to turn 58. I, right now, am 57 years old, about to turn 58. We both have gray mustaches. No.
Yes, so many similarities.
So, yeah. You like seeing all these scenes of LaGuardia, the Courtyard Marriott Hotel. That's where we lay over at LaGuardia. The gate, actually, that he pushed back from C-21 at the time was a U.S. Air gate. Now it's one of our gates, and I've used that gate many, many times. That whole scene where they're backing away from the gate, I'm going, ooh, that's kind of give me goosebumps, because this is what I do all the time when I go into a LaGuardia, and I don't know. I just so many things. In fact, so much so that when I saw him out on several scenes, they show him out running, and I'm thinking, well, he is my age in this film, and he's out there running. I should really try to go out there and run some more, take better care of myself.
Yes, I can help you with that, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want your help. I don't want blisters on my toes. Thank you.
Toenails are not important.
Toenails. Who needs them? What else? Oh, yeah, there's a scene where they talk about the fact that Sully is starting up this new safety consulting firm and a website and all this kind of stuff. Now, it's not exactly the same, of course, but doing the podcast, it's aviation related. I know it's not exactly
outside interests, outside aviation endeavors.
And they're having this kind of conversation in the cockpit, and I'm thinking, this is the kind of conversation I'm having with my first officers, although it's not specifically the safety consultation business that he was trying to start. And I don't know, it's just like, was just eerie for me watching the whole thing, creepy. And the other thing I thought was interesting is I'm enjoying this film and I'm in it and I'm focused on it, but I'm thinking, how can this be a film that's going to have a wide appeal to the public? I'm thinking this is probably going to bomb.
I'll tell you what. So I saw the movie when I was in Salt Lake City the day that I ran the half marathon. So I really was useless for the rest of the day. So I was like, great, let's go see this movie, right? So me and both of my brothers and both of their girlfriends and my friend Karen, who was there with me, we all piled into Broovies, which is one of few, if not the only, theaters in Salt Lake where you can drink beer and watch a movie at the same time, because for those of you who know Salt Lake City, that's just how it is. But anyway, we pile into this theater, which, by the way, Broovies, if you're listening, it smelled like a gym locker, and I have no idea why. You need to work on that.
People who've just done half marathons go in there. That's why.
Apparently. But there was like
and
no one else.
drinking beer. I mean, you work up a sweat.
I know, right? So it was me. It was us. They're like the six of us, and like two other couples in the whole theater. That was it, because it was like midday on Saturday, and it was a gorgeous day, and the state fair was going on, and Oktoberfest was going on, and there was something else going on, and so whatever. No one was at the movies. But anyway, so we're all in there, and we left, and then we were out at a bar afterwards, and I was talking to my brothers and their girlfriends and asking them what they thought about the movie, because I already knew your comments about it, Jeff, that you thought it wasn't maybe something that would appeal to the masses or people who are not interested in aviation. And my youngest brother is very much an aviation geek, so he obviously enjoyed it. But everyone else enjoyed it too, and the rest of them really are not aviation geeks per se, but they all thought it was a good movie. They liked the way it was portrayed. They liked the way it was told. They liked that it was kind of told in pieces, so you got to see a little bit more of the details each time as it went through, because they really didn't, to us, we all know the story, but all they knew was the plane ended up on the Hudson. That's all they know of it, and that everyone lived. But they didn't know all the details that really went into it. So they actually kind of enjoyed seeing that. They enjoyed seeing kind of how everything played out with the investigation, and it was really, they were engrossed and involved in the movie, and they came away with a positive view of it. So I think it is going to have pretty wide appeal for people.
Maybe one of the things that made me think that this was not going to be a blockbuster hit was that the couple right next to me, a younger millennial couple, the girl sitting next to me was like restless the whole time, always, like constantly altering her position, yawning, kind of sighing. And I'm thinking, this is interesting to me, but obviously this is not interesting to her. But you make a good point about the fact that you and all of us listening to the show, we already know the story.
Right.
And so for the people out there that the only thing they know, as you said, was this airplane that lost engines and crashed landed on the river.
And there were a lot of very dramatic points in the movie, where you really feel like you're connected to the characters, where you feel like you're right there in the scene. Like I said, I really liked the way the storytelling was done. I really appreciated it. And I think the people who are not, naturally interested in aviation felt the same way. I felt like they could connect to it on that level.
Well, very good points. Very good points. So I'm hoping, of course, that the movie does very well for the general public, because I think it really finally portrays our profession in a very good light.
And I think the recreations were about as realistic as you can get for Hollywood.
Oh, that I have to say is probably one of the best parts of the whole thing, is the fact that obviously they took a lot of time and effort to present everything as accurately as possible. There are a couple little things that I noticed that it was hard not to make the mistake, like having an overhead shot of LaGuardia when they were taxiing out to runway 4 and going around some of the concourses, and a couple of 737-900s with the sharklet, winglets on them. Of course, they didn't have those back in 2009. That kind of thing, but I mean, very, very minor details that only the geekiest of us aviation enthusiasts would
like, wait
even
a minute.
notice. Yeah. Not like, some of the movies where they show a picture of a 747 in one scene and then a Cessna in another scene, and it's like that's not even close to the same kind of airplane, But I think they did a good job.
So real quick, a couple of things from Pip in the chat room. He says, shameless plug alert. If you haven't already, you should go to his YouTube channel and watch Captain Jeff do the Miracle on the Hudson scenario. because we did attempt this. Although, to be fair, we knew what was going to happen. So we were in that subset that, although it still didn't quite turn out as we planned, I don't think.
So we didn't lower the gear.
Go watch. Just watch. But there was a good reason for that.
But
well, I don't think Sully lowered the gear either, did he? So
that's true.
He landed on the water.
But, to be fair, I did kind of work through the scenario in the simulator, the Hawker simulator in
Hawker.
It
was not. It was also not the same type of plane.
No, different kind of airplane. But I knew exactly what was going to happen. So I immediately turned back toward LaGuardia. Yeah. So
we had a little bit
as you'll see in the movie, that's kind of like there's some similarities there to the way
we didn't wait 35 seconds and then
right,
which would have totally been different.
So I guess I shouldn't give Sullenberger such a hard time.
It's still a good video. You should go watch it.
Yeah.
The other thing Pip said was his conclusion is don't ever get on an airline or boat or spaceship with Tom Hanks. And
right.
Yes, there's a lot of things you shouldn't do with Tom Hanks. He just seems to.
Oh, Pip.
There was something else I was going to say too. Oh well, I forgot. But anyway.
Okay.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. So I think that all of the APG crew that are here right now, with the exception of wait a minute, Rick, Miami Rick, are you there? No, nothing but crickets. I think that all three of us here, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, and Captain Jeff, give it 2 enthusiastic thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Very much.
Definitely go see the movie, and hopefully we didn't spoil anything for you, but it was a good film.
They land on the Hudson. Oh, sorry.
Oh. Dang it. I'll have to edit that out.
Sorry.
All right. It's before we move on to the rest of the news, we need to do this first.
I love coffee.
I love tea. I love the Java and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Yes, new Java jive music. This is the Ringmasters. They're an acapella group. I think somewhere down under.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully that's not something that I'm violating copyright on. Anyway, while they sing in the background there, let us tell you about the Coffee Fund, which is your way to support the Airline Pilot Guy show with your hard-earned money. And if you would like to do so, oh, they're getting louder all of a sudden. Here, let me turn them back down. Turn it down, guys. If you'd like to help out by contributing to the Airline Pilot Guy Coffee Fund, and you want to learn more about it, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. Basically, it's our way to help offset the costs of doing the show, as well as doing APG meetups, like our recent APG meetup in the UK at Farnborough in July. And again, airlinepilotguy.com/coffee if you'd like to learn more about contributing to the fund. And since the last show, we have a couple folks who did that, Jeff Moeller and Martin Huberger. No new patrons this week, but it's another way to help support the show if you'd like. Again, just head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee to learn more.
Your nickel in the pie, Joe. Taking it slow, taking it slow. Waiter, waiter, percolator. I love coffee, I love tea. I love the Java and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Whoa!
Stand by for news.
Holidaymakers were forced to endure a terrifying 2-hour flight alongside a migrant who repeatedly screamed Allahu Akbar and death is coming as it emerged the Home Office is using budget airlines to deport illegal immigrants. This from thedailymail.co.uk. Children were reduced to tears and travelers feared a terror attack until it became clear that the handcuffed man was being guarded by Home Office officials, but there was no official explanation from the captain or crew as he kicked, thrashed about, and threatened passengers and crew in an expletive-strewn tirade. Here's a little bit of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome aboard. My name is Steph, the captain of this flight. First of all, I want to apologize for the there was some slowing down operation is in Gatwick this morning, so we had to wait half an hour before leaving for the previous flight. Now we are trying to expedite our operation. Flight time is going to be close to 1 hour. The weather is marvelous.
He's yelling, "We're all going to die today," and the captain's just making this normal announcement.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see.
Nothing. Yeah. Don't pay attention to that guy back there yelling that we're all going to die. Oh, what a mess. It has emerged that the budget airlines are being used by officials to deport illegal immigrants from Britain. Let's see. In an extraordinary 11-minute audio recording made by a passenger sitting just yards away and obtained by the Mail on Sunday, the man screamed Allahu Akbar 29 times, death is coming 17 times, and we will die 9 times. The unidentified migrant who was being deported to Venice kept up the crude and threatening behavior for nearly the entire length of the budget flight, according to those on board. And anyway, it was quite a scene there. And I think that perhaps it could have been mitigated a bit or moderated a bit if they had...
There could have been some explanation.
Yeah, they said, hey,
right, like,
the guy that's screaming back there, this is what's going on.
We've got the situation under control. He's going to scream, we're sorry for your inconvenience, but he's not a threat because we've got it under control. That would have been a nice preamble to the, and now here's the weather en route, and we'll be cruising at 39,000 feet, and enjoy your ride. Thanks for flying with EasyJet.
Right. Can you imagine the people there not knowing that this is a guy that they're deporting and thinking that this is just one of the passengers and a bomb's about to go off or machine gun fire or whatever? Horrible, horrible way to handle this situation, in my opinion. What do you think, Captain Nick?
Well, I've carried a lot of deportees, Jeff. I don't know if you guys do it very often. But
we've carried prisoners before, but not deportees as far as I know.
The thing about a deportee is if they can prevent themselves from being kept on the aircraft by kicking off, then they will do so. And I've had some remarkable occurrences, including deportees stripping all their clothes off and trying to be naked on the aircraft, and a lot of kicking, screaming, spitting, punching, fighting.
And he's just talking about deadheading pilots at this point.
Absolutely. So the whole motive of a deportee that is trying to stay in the country that they're currently in is to make themselves so abhorrent that they won't be carried. So what usually happens is once you get over that initial problem and you get airborne, they usually go, okay, well that's failed. I'll sit down and enjoy a cup of tea, and there you go. It's a fait accompli. Obviously this bloke didn't. Now, with regards to making a PA, that's an interesting point. The deportee can't usually be heard more than, I don't know, 10, 15 rows. That's a tiny proportion of a very big airplane. Why concern all the passengers, 350 odd, with a problem that's usually confined right to the very aft of the airplane, because that's, I don't know about this aircraft, but that's where our deportees travel, right in the rearmost section. And since we can usually make PAs specific to different sections, if that was going on, I would expect the cabin crew in charge of that section to make an isolated PA just affecting the area the deportee was in, explaining what was going on and etc. You wouldn't really want to actually then concern the entire aircraft full of people with a problem that was down to one small area.
So I don't know what type of aircraft they were actually flying, and knowing how journalists are, but it looks like an A321 or A320, excuse me, in the picture.
This is where I agree with your comments. On an aircraft that small, most people are going to hear it.
Yeah, it was EasyJet, so it's got to be.
I'm just talking from my experience.
Yeah,
on a big.
So I flew back on an A319, and if someone was screaming anywhere on the plane yesterday that I flew on, everyone would hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I personally think that the captain might well have made mention of it, but these things normally quiet themselves down considerably. Having said that, this is a classic case of a newspaper picking up on something that really happens regularly. I can't tell you the number of times that we have deportees who use this tactic to try and prevent from being deported. So it's not an unusual occurrence of why the Daily Mail suddenly thought to make it a big splash. Well, it's only because someone bothered to record it. And they thought, oh, well, that sounds great. Obviously, the entire rest of the country hasn't heard about this, so let's tell them.
Steve Horton says that on these planes you can hear the pilots scream.
So, if they had not reported it and didn't have audio of it, Captain Nick, then we wouldn't be able to talk about it on the Airline Pilot Guy show either.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, and then we wouldn't have anything to do on our layovers.
That's true. Not true at all. Okay, well, we'll move on then. Party pooper. All right. Well, here was an interesting one, I think. An Air Asia pilot ends up in Melbourne, Australia, instead of Malaysia after a navigation error. A crew of an Airbus 330 entered the wrong coordinates for a flight from Sydney to Kuala Lumpur and had to divert after the error was noticed. And was this the incident that happened quite some time ago that we talked about?
This happened back in March.
Okay, well maybe we've already talked about this.
Well, I don't know that we did or not. I can't remember, but it just came back around recently. So everyone was talking about it last week, but it did happen back in March. I don't know why.
Okay.
Actually, it says March 2015.
Okay. Oh, so yeah.
I love it.
I think it's great. It's because the first officer's the guy that normally enters the coordinates for the inertial navigation system in, and the captain very kindly decided to do it for him while the first officer was out doing a walk around. And because he never does it, he had
faulty earmuffs, according to the article.
Yeah, of course. Whatever. He did it completely wrong and told the airplane it was like half a continent away from where it really was.
Yeah, if you do like west instead of east or vice versa, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what really I find amusing is the aircraft will actually tell the inertial navigation system where it is anyway. I don't know about they have might have a different system on their A330s, but our A330s, the aircraft, once you type in your airfield you're currently in, and the aircraft will tell the inertial, this is where we are, mate, aligned to these coordinates. And you only have to look down and check them. You don't actually have to look down and correct them. So I don't know if the input was even necessary in this case. So
it said the report said that the crew had a number of opportunities to identify and correct the error, but did not notice until they had become airborne and started to track in the wrong direction. Yeah. Those opportunities included a flag or message that flashed up on the captain's screen during cross-check of the cockpit preparations, which the first officer later told ATSB investigators he had seen but not mentioned because it was too quick to interpret, and 3 separate chimes, which, because they were not accompanied by a message from the computer, were ignored. A 5th sign that something was wrong came in the form of an alert blaring, "Terrain, terrain." This was not ignored. Both pilots said it had startled them. But as that alert meant that they were about to hit
what's
something,
this?
they could see the way ahead was clear, and as the busy runways at Sydney Airport made the full response to such an alert undesirable, they pressed on.
I love it.
Ignore
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Not
We must be
important.
right.
Yeah.
This
The
is
autopilot
classic-
engaged at 410 feet. The plane, it tracked the plane left toward the flight path of another runway. If I could read.
I love it. It's a classic
So-
case of bull dust in and bull dust out.
Yes.
You notice the way I did that? You know, I'm
I love the way you did
good.
that. Don't have to edit that out. Thank you. Anyway, so I thought we'd mention that one. Another case of incompetency. Thank you very much. Yes, there is incompetency at the controls of sophisticated airplanes out there. Got to be careful. I think that's about it in the news section,
That's
unless
all I
I've
can
missed
say.
something. Anything else?
No.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
All right. Well, now let's move on to your feedback.
Captain. Incoming message.
Okay, let's start with Larry in Tulsa. He sent us some feedback. He said, Jeff and crew, regarding, and we talked about this on an earlier episode about flying runway heading. And he says, regarding the extended center, I think, we were talking about the technique that I like to use when we're coming in for an approach. I'll identify the ILS antenna as the fix and then shoot out a radial which aligns with the final approach course to kind of give me some idea of the extended center line coming in. And then somebody had mentioned that they like to use a technique where they actually do the same thing but in the opposite direction. Who said that? Do you remember, Steph?
I liked it for coming in. I don't know if I may have talked about it for going out as well, but he brings up some valid points and we should address those. But I typically only use it coming in so that I can identify the correct, make sure that I'm just lined up with the correct runway.
Right.
I don't usually use it on departure. But
Okay.
I don't know if I said anything about that or not. But you can use it both ways.
Right.
But he brings up some good points that we're going to get into, and we'll talk about that in just.
I think I'd said, that sounds like a good technique. And then he said, regarding the extended center line function on the GPS/PFD display, primary flight display, in the pilot controller glossary, note the definition of runway heading. Runway heading is the magnetic direction that corresponds with the runway center line extended, not the painted runway number. So, the runway might be runway 23, but the actual heading itself may be 226 or something like that, or 234.
235, yeah.
Yeah. So, when they say runway heading, they want you to fly the exact runway heading. When cleared to fly or maintain runway heading, pilots are expected to fly or maintain that heading or the heading that corresponds with the extended center line of the departure runway. Drift correction shall not be applied. For example, runway 4, actual magnetic heading of the runway center line 044, you fly 044. And so if there's a strong wind making you not track the extended center line, that's what they expect to happen. They take into account the fact that there's a strong wind coming from one direction or
and
another.
That's under instrument flight rules. That's if you're in IMC, we should point out.
Okay. So under VFR, however, you should correct drift to remain over the extended center line of the runway while on the upwind leg. And then he sent cited some statements from the Airplane Flying Handbook, pages 5 and 6. The climb with a wind correction angle should be continued to follow a ground track aligned with the runway direction. However, because the force of a crosswind may vary markedly within a few hundred feet at the ground, frequent checks of actual ground track should be made and the wind correction adjusted as necessary. The Airplane Flying Handbook also calls out drift correction in the common errors portion of that section. So he goes on, he says he has a little bit more information there. And then finally, takeoffs, landings, and go-arounds from the private pilot and commercial pilot PTS. What does that stand for? PTS.
The practical test standards.
Oh, okay. Maintain directional control. PTS.
PTS is practical test standards. So if you're training for those certificates, the PTS standards are that.
Okay, so one of the standards they look for a private pilot, PTS, maintains directional control and proper wind drift correction throughout the takeoff and climb. Under IFR, the rationale for flying runway heading and not flying a track, when cleared to fly runway heading or fly heading blah blah blah, is suggested in the Instrument Procedures Handbook section. In the event of parallel departures, this prevents a loss of separation caused by only one aircraft applying a wind drift. So in this case, you have triple simultaneous departures, let's say Atlanta. If they have us all fly headings, that's what they expect us to do, and then they understand that the wind is going to affect all of us simultaneously. So if one of us decides, oh, well, they really want us to fly a track, and we make a wind correction, then the other two could possibly end up flying into our path. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And that is absolutely correct, and that's what the regulations say, and that's what the PTS
I'm just a trifle lost. Not in the explanation, which I agree 100%, but what is... was there some subject previously that...
Yeah, we had talked a little bit about this and using the extended center line and the FMS to draw a line just for reference.
You can do the same thing on some of the products available for general aviation pilots too, like FlightAware. We'll draw extended center lines for you.
Okay, right. So
well, basically, it's just his effort
to situational awareness, basically.
Right. It was just Larry's chance to make us look bad in public, I think.
Oh, that's just you, Jeff, because I don't.
Or just me, yeah.
That's no, I think he brings up really good points, and we definitely did not talk about that, but that is absolutely correct.
He didn't want us to, I mean, somebody listening to the show get the wrong idea of what we were saying. Just wanted to kind of clarify things.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very clear now.
May have said wrong, because it's possible that we did state that incorrectly, or at least I may have.
And, you know, that's what we're all about here. You know, until we get the fact checkers back, we're going to have to correct ourselves.
Right.
And with the help of the community, of course.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. Moving on. Dispatch Greg writes, he said, I found this story interesting. And he cites a link to the Aviation Herald, Simon's wonderful website. And the incident was a Delta Airlines A320 near Myrtle Beach on August 22nd, 2016, so pretty recently. APU problem. A Delta Airlines Airbus A320-200 performing flight 1183 from Norfolk, Virginia to Atlanta with 160 passengers and 6 crew was climbing out of Norfolk when the crew stopped the climb at flight level 230 due to problems with the auxiliary power unit and worked the related checklists. About 20 minutes later, the crew decided to divert to Myrtle Beach, where the aircraft landed safely about 25 minutes after the decision to divert. And so Dispatch Greg, who was a dispatcher for a major U.S. legacy carrier, said, from a pilot's perspective, it's a short flight from Norfolk to Atlanta. En route, your APU goes in op. Why divert? Maybe we don't have the whole story. Yeah, I think so. But doesn't it seem odd to divert for a faulty APU? Most Airbus, the company I work for, there is a deferral for an in-op APU. Was this precautionary? The first time the time that they held and the en route to divert, they probably could have made it to Atlanta. Number 2, thoughts on inoperative APUs. Some pilots at my company are okay with APU deferrals, and others won't accept an aircraft with an inoperative APU. I understand if there's weather or going to an airport without ground power or high elevation airports. I just see on a day-to-day good VFR day, hub to hub, and a pilot will refuse the aircraft because of a deferred APU. Just wanted to get your thoughts. So, I'll start off by saying I think, you know, in your first paragraph, Greg, you said, I don't think we have the whole story. I think that it's likely that there was something else going on to complicate the situation. For instance, it could have been that one of the electrical generators on one of the engines was deferred. It wasn't working. So in order to have 2 operating generators, they may have been required to have the APU operating for the entire flight. I've had this situation several times. So you have 2 generators operating, and then all of a sudden you develop a problem with your APU. You're down to a single generator. So I don't know what the weather was like in the situation, or if it was daytime or nighttime. But if it was at nighttime, or the weather was not very good, I would definitely see the rationale for diverting and not continuing the flight to Atlanta, because now you're just exposing yourself to a lot of risk, and you only have one generator. If that one goes, especially in an airplane like an Airbus A320, where electrical power basically is pretty critical.
Yeah, you got 30 minutes basically to get the airplane on the ground.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what happened there, or perhaps the problem they were having with the APU, for whatever reason, I don't know why they would have it running, other than the situation that I just mentioned. Maybe it was starting to smoke or something, some other problem than just it not working. So I don't know. What do you think, Captain?
Is that a leg long enough to require ETOPS?
Oh, no. Norfolk, Virginia to Atlanta is a hour 15 flight.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe
in that
not
case,
even that.
I think you're right. There could only have been the circumstance where the APU was providing a service that some other system on the aircraft couldn't, and when it failed, then they were left in a land ASAP situation. So that's a clear-cut decision. Unless the destination is closer than your diversion, you land at your diversion. So there you go.
Yeah. And then, of course, inoperative APUs. I think in your case, Captain Nick, being that you do extended overwater operations, I mean, leaving without an operative APU is probably definitely not a go item, right?
Well, funny you should mention that. No, it's not, Jeff. I mean, when you got 4 engines, you're not really too worried about having an APU.
But what about in the A330?
Yeah, well, the 330, if you're doing an ETOPS, you'd very much like to have an APU, but it still wouldn't stop me. So no, the APU is a discretionary item. You can fly with it with the MEL, and so unless there's some good reason why you can't dispatch, I mean, ETOPS is a different case. So yeah, you probably need one for ETOPS, and there are some destinations where we would definitely want to have an APU. Thinking places where ground power isn't reliable, very hot, you're going to need to have air conditioning on the aircraft all the time, and it wouldn't necessarily be available on sort of ground air conditioning, and you might need it for an engine start because they may not have air starters there. All those circumstances might require you to have an APU for dispatch, but we actually I've flown regularly without APUs, and it's never really been a problem.
Okay. Yeah, same thing for us. And one of my pet peeves is operating an airplane like I fly, a Mad Dog, flying from Atlanta or New York to South Florida in the summertime without an operative APU. I mean, it's just
brutal.
I mean, I do it all the time because there's really, I mean, it's legal to go down there without it. But whenever that happens, I make a point of contacting my dispatcher, discussing it with him. Okay, do the people down in Palm Beach know that our APU is not operating? Yes, I've already called, I talked to the station manager, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, would you please tell them that when I get in, I am not going to shut down my engines, or at least I'm going to leave one engine running with the air conditioning system on until they connect the external air. Because as soon as you turn that engine off and you don't have any air conditioning going in that aluminum tube in the 90-something degree heat with 100% humidity, it immediately feels like a sauna. And I mean, it can be very, very stressful for passengers, especially older passengers. And so, I did that once. I went down there and I even talked to the station manager before I left Atlanta, the one that was down in Palm Beach. And when I got there, we talked on the radio. I said, okay, just a reminder, I'm not going to shut the engine down until we actually have the air on. So we go up to the gate, and we're sitting there, and they're giving me the signal for the electrical power, which usually means, okay, now they're going to shut the engine off because it's really noisy out here. And they just kept looking at me going, like, I have the power connected, and I went, okay, yeah, but you need to connect the air. And we're talking on the radio. Apparently, the people in the operations center decided not to tell the people that are actually working the flight on the ramp that that's what I was going to do. I was like, So after about 5 to 10 minutes of operating that engine at the gate, they finally got the idea, oh, maybe he wants the external air on the airplane. Duh. Anyway, that's my little soapbox item for today.
I love your little hand signals that, of course, people listening to the podcast wouldn't have appreciated.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Exactly right. I like that.
If you're looking at the video, you'll be doing my signals.
He's doing his out of the cockpit signals there for power and air. But actually, I'm a little bit more sophisticated. I have an app on my iPad that scrolls letters across the screen, so you can send a message to the ground. So I just type in whatever message I'm going to do and hold that up to the window, and my iPad scrolls it across. So they just sit there and.
Well, aren't you fancy?
Yeah, I know.
Does it still compute though? Because I feel like the hand signals are supposed to convey the same message.
Well, to tell the truth, I've never seen a hand signal for plugging in air, because I mean it's not something we ever worry about. I don't know. Is that a Acme special hand signal, or is that in a book of the world's hand signals, Jeff?
Is it just me that has having bad audio, or is it Captain Nick or Steph? Can you?
I can hear Nick just fine.
Okay, so it's me, of course.
Well, yeah. So do you want me to repeat that, Jeff?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I was just saying, is that those hand signals you go? I hadn't seen those before, so I'm not aware of them. It might be because
those are standard signals.
Are they Acme signals, or are they in the World's Book of Standard Signals?
They're in the big world book of standardized hand signals.
Okay, I must try and find that book, because I've never seen those.
It's a very big book. I normally carry it.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of hand signals I've used in the past, but not those two.
It's one of those coffee table books.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
More useless knowledge to fill your brain.
I'll get one for you for Christmas.
Very
much. Lots of stick figures holding their hands up.
Now you'll have to tell me about your app that you use on your iPad. That sounds like a pretty neat idea.
Well, I'm just going to grab it for you, actually, and show it to you if I can.
I figured you'd probably do some kind of message for me while I'm recording the show, and I'm sure it's going to be
just for
rated
the
G.
Live YouTube audience.
Yeah, exactly right.
Those
So I'll just set it up, and it's called. Hang on a minute. I'll have to close it down again to see what it's called. It's called Say Anything.
Oh, I've seen this.
So you guys carry on.
Say anything, okay.
Well, while you think of a message to send to Jeff.
Well,
okay.
Here,
I'm looking forward to this.
Would you like me to read the next
special one for Jeff?
Yes, please.
Do we finish up APU, INOP, and MEL deferrals? I think we did.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So this next one is from Brian. That's all I got, Brian. And he's talking about the T-33/38 gear shift. He said, I thought you guys would like to see this. A church friend of mine trained in the T-33, so for Father's Day, his kids found him an actual T-33/38 stick and turned it into a gear shift lever. As long as the trigger doesn't get hooked up to any guns, I think we'll be okay. Enjoy, Brian. He's in a Toyota of some sort, but he's got a T-33 stick gear shift, which is pretty funny. Now it doesn't look like a manual transmission though, which would be even better. But
yeah.
Still fantastic nonetheless. All kinds of red buttons and scary looking things to press there.
Right. Very cool. Got to have one for my car. The reason why we're giggling is because Captain Nick is using his say it or whatever. No, he put bugger off in his message. Oh, Merry Christmas. Look at this. Even has Merry Christmas from your pilots. And then even has some animated
emojis.
GIFs.
There you go. You see, those ones I've used in the past.
Very nice. I like it. And I like that T-33/38 gear shift, Brian. Thanks for sending that. We'll put a picture of that in the show notes. Just a reminder to everyone listening, show notes. Go to airlinepilotguy.com, and then you can see the podcasts and all the show notes we have and links and that kind of thing. And usually, unless I forget to do it, if you're looking for a particular episode, you can just do airlinepilotguy.com/237, which is the link that will go directly to the show notes in this episode. All right. Lefty Lewis writes, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you all on the amazing podcast you produce, and a special nod to Captain Nick, being the European guy in the crew and an Airbus person like myself. Much to my frustration, though, every day I have to fly with a huge yoke between my legs. Gotta love the classic design of the 737. Not that I can complain that much about it. Today, starting our descent over the Alps, the air traffic controller advised us that a balloon had been reported in the area and asked us if we had visual contact, as she wanted further clarification on what kind of balloon it was. Sure enough, about 5 miles in our 2 o'clock, there was what my eyes interpreted as a normal passenger hot air balloon. The odd thing is that both myself and my captain estimated that the balloon was around 13,000 feet, flying at 8 o'clock in the morning, in very close proximity to the Alps on an overcast day. These, combined with the fact that they were in controlled airspace, apparently not talking to anyone, made me question what on earth they were doing. Maybe the balloon experts in the APG community can provide an idea. Hopefully, it was all under control. You can find a link to the best photo I could manage to take with my phone, and he put a link there. And, I don't think I actually looked at that link, so...
So, yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now.
Okay.
It does, it's clearly a balloon shape. I can't tell from the photo whether there's a basket hanging underneath it.
It's a bit of a dot on the horizon.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dot on the horizon. It looks like it's above the overcast cloud layer. So I'm not sure what type of a balloon that is.
Can you see like like a sheep or a duck or a chicken?
I think all three of them are in there, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
The sheep's holding up his iPad with a message on it, but we can't quite read it.
It's a little far away.
Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps Grant McCarran, our balloonatic in Australia, can chime in, and maybe he can look at the picture and discern what the heck we're looking at.
I mean, it's hard to tell if it is a like a passenger balloon, or if it's
well, I'm just trying to think what other kind of balloons there are. Obviously, there are weather balloons, don't get me wrong, I understand that. But it's not like they are cargo balloons.
No.
I mean,
just one carrying people. I can't imagine that that's one carrying people at 13,000 feet in the Alps, in IMC, or above.
Could it be a weather balloon?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know enough about weather balloons to know what they...
Weather balloons aren't that big. I mean, they do swell quite big, but they take some time to get to their full size. So they're probably only like 5 meters across, and they're circular, generally, rather than a balloon, classic hot air balloon shape.
I don't know what those, what the Google balloons look like. Don't they have those out now?
A Google balloon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right,
I think you stumped
Grant?
us, Lefty.
Help.
Maybe Grant can chime in.
Yeah, it's handy having a balloon expert over there. Shame he's in Australia.
Every podcast should have their own balloon expert, or maybe share it amongst the other aviation podcasts.
There you go.
Anyway, well, thank you, Lefty, for your feedback and question, and we'll see what we can do with it. We mentioned that series Skies Above Britain on an earlier show. Liz sent a link to the YouTube of that HD Part 1 Flying into Danger 2016. I'm not sure how many episodes are there on this particular YouTube channel, but we'll put a link to it in the show notes. You can investigate it yourself. Thank you, Liz.
Oh, wait, just going back to the last article about the balloon. The chat room knows what it is.
Oh, what do they think it is?
Aliens.
An alien balloon.
Aliens.
Yeah, it's aliens.
Yeah,
okay.
that makes so much sense that aliens should travel across light years of space in a balloon.
It's a space balloon, Nick.
Why wouldn't they?
Space balloon.
Why not?
And the cosmic winds.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. Up there with the chemtrails.
Yep.
All right.
I'm beginning to worry about our chat room.
Yeah, well, just now. You know what that means.
Yeah, I'm going to go mow my lawn.
I'm going to go vacuum.
Drones.
Carpet.
Fix a margarita in the blender. Okay, well, I'll try to get a better sound effect. But until then, we'll just have to deal with it, okay? Air Canada had a bit of a scare at Saskatoon's airport on Thursday when something, either a drone or radio-controlled toy, flew too close for comfort. It happened just before noon CST as the Embraer 190 flying in from Toronto was coming in for a landing at Diefenbaker Airport. A member of the crew spotted the small remotely piloted aircraft which got within about 30 meters of the plane, about 100 feet. There was no damage and no one was hurt. The sighting was reported to authorities, a Transport Canada report said. It's one of several instances of drones and planes experiencing problems near Saskatchewan airports. As we keep saying, it's just a matter of time before an airplane hits one of these things. You know that we talked about the Blue Angels 360 video on a previous episode, and how close they were. Like you felt you could just reach up and just grab one of the wingtips. Let's see who sent this one here. Miles. Yeah, thank you. He said, "How do the Blue Angels handle turbulence when they're flying this close?" Nick, you're an expert at formation flying. By the way, I've heard this term used on several shows. Formate, using the word as a verb. There is no such thing as formate unless you're talking about chemistry. Okay, go on.
Okay, well, I've been using that wrong for a long time because I'm.
Oh, you have? I'm sorry.
I'm going to go formate on you. So rather than going, I'm going to hold a formation position on you.
It's one of those things where I think you just kind of make a word just work. Verbatize. That's a word I just
make it a verb.
Make it a verb.
So for me, that's.
I wasn't aware that wasn't a word. I thought it was a word too. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a guy on. I think it was the PTUK. They were interviewing the guy that does the announcements at the show or whatever, and he said it, and I thought it's just like. That just doesn't sound right to me. So I actually looked it up and I said, nope, there is no such word as formate. Unless, again, you're talking about
right now.
Okay, look it up and then tell us about the chemical structure of formic acid. I think it's one of the...
Anion derived from formic acid.
I'm now looking in the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. Oh, in the Urban Dictionary. Well, be careful because that one could be...
That's not Webster.
Form a salt or an ester of formic acid.
I didn't see any. I mean, I kept looking for something that had something to do with formation flying, and I couldn't find it. Could be wrong.
Anyway, I have a question for Miles. Is he statute or nautical? I'm just curious. So Miles, how do Blue Angels handle the turbulence? Well, they do it by not flying in line with each other. So when you look at that video, you'll see that they're stacked. So that the guys flying with their wings close, they step down from the guy in front so that the turbulence from the wings doesn't impinge directly. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a problem because there is a significant pressure change when you're flying close to another aircraft, and the closer you get, the stronger that pressure change is. It's one of the reasons why when you drop a bomb or release a fuel tank from a fighter aircraft that you're going to drop, you actually have to have an explosive charge which fires them away from the aircraft. If you just release them, they'll undergo what we commonly call stores capture, so they'll be held in close proximity to the aircraft that's just released them by the pressure reductions that occur around an aircraft, and they'll often bang into bits of the airframe and damage the aircraft, and you actually have to punch them away out of the influence of the pressure that goes around an aircraft. So you do feel that when you're very close, but these guys are obviously practiced and they do it all the time, so they're pretty good at just maintaining obviously a very steady amount of pressure on the stick to make sure that they hold the position and don't get dragged into each other. It's the same sort of pressure envelope you get around an aircraft when you're doing very, very low level flying. and they call that ground effect. In fact, there are aircraft, the Russians built some, that are designed to fly in the ground effect, and that's the sort of cushioning effect you get, similar to being a hovercraft. When you put an aircraft close to the ground, there's almost like a cushion of air under you that makes it quite hard to push those last few feet until you impact. It happens, generally speaking, when you're flying fairly fast. Wouldn't happen kind of in the landing environment, although you do get it to a certain extent, which is why sometimes aircraft float excessively long distances down the runway, and we try and break through that ground effect to get our wheels down. So that's it. You don't fly exactly in line with the immediate wake turbulence or the turbulence out of the jet engines of the aircraft in front. You step up or down, and that's the easy one for that. How do
what's funny about that is that when I saw that, I wasn't thinking wake turbulence. I was thinking like just regular atmospheric turbulence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I know, but I think that I was wrong. I think the way you took his question was the way to interpret it, what he was asking.
Oh, sure.
I'm thinking, oh, you idiot, Jeff. That's not what he was talking about. But let's say
I was with you, Jeff, but it definitely makes more sense the way that Nick described
Captain Nick said, went, oh. But yeah, I guess it was atmospheric turbulence. Wouldn't it affect all the jets in their formation at the same time? So would it have any effect?
Necessarily, no, because pilots react slightly differently to a jolt or in turbulence. So some guys might cope with it and react immediately. Some guys might not. So there would be a certain amount of jostling. And now, don't take this as gospel, but I understand the red arrows in the old days, they may not do it anymore, used to dink relatively frequently. Red arrows, they don't know, is the UK formation team. They used to touch each other quite regularly, and I say regularly, every now and again, which accounts for the large number of inverted commas bird strikes they had. So they used to go call it a bird
Interesting.
strike. And just go and fix the airplane and not worry about
That's birds. Gotta watch out for those birds.
Oh, lots of birds.
I mean, Sully, come on. You know, he had to work.
Birds are dangerous.
Yes, they are.
Especially those Canadian birds. Hey, so anyway, while you were talking, I was looking up, trying to find formate anywhere in the dictionary.
Yeah.
And the only place it occurs is actually on the Wiktionary, the Wikipedia dictionary, as an aviation term.
Oh.
The form of formation, but it does not occur in any other actual dictionary. So.
Okay. Well, then that's good enough for me.
Okay.
That's good enough for me.
I'll
so let's go.
Okay, good.
There we go.
That's very good of you, Jeff, but I think you're basically right. We've invented our own flying term.
But hey, what's wrong with, why can't we invent our own vocabulary?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? So a lot of those terms become so popular that they work their way into general usage. So
that's how language works.
Like Check 6, which you and I would understand, and it's amazing the number of people that do understand that now, because they see movies and they kind of know what it means. So there you go.
Right. Interesting. There's another question he had there too. You want to handle that one? I think that you would be the most qualified to answer his second question.
For sure. And the answer is yes, you're quite right, Miles. So we do have sleeping quarters for the pilots that are off duty on a long flight. So sometimes you have a complete second crew that will do the middle part of a flight, so allow the crew that do the takeoff and landings to have some rest. So when they are on their rest period, they'll slide out of the flight deck, and it varies. I've seen pictures of the bin liner, the 787's crew rest, and that was gorgeous. The one that I had on the 340 was a little more basic, just a pair of bunks in a very narrow room behind the flight deck, so we could at least lie down. And so, go in there, and we used to have little sheets and a duvet and a pillow and a little night light, so you could read for a bit, and then, draw a curtain around your bunk and go to sleep. The cabin crew
had an alarm clock to rudely wake you up when it's time to go back to work.
Yeah, what we used to do was just press the call bell for that part of the aircraft, so the flight crew rest call bell, and just ding that a few times, and it was time for the guys to wake up. And then they used to bang on the wall, showing that they had actually woken up, and then we would stop ringing them. But the cabin crew had quite an amazing little bit of kit, which was like a cargo container. So it was in the hold, and it was kind of like an 8-berth caravan, all carpeted inside and very smooth, so that everyone could go down there and grab a bunk. And this container was slid into the cargo hold and located underneath a little stairwell, so that a door in the roof located with some stairs down, and the cabin crew then could sneak downstairs and go for a bit of a lie down and a rest in there. I know other aircraft have got them up in the base of the fin. The 747 used to have those, and various other places hidden around the airplane where the crew can go and rest.
The 777 has, at least the ones that Acme flies, have very nice facilities up above the business class section. So you come out of the cockpit and you open a door that looks like a closet door or a lavatory door, and then you go up like a half spiral staircase and 2 very nice business class kind of seats, and then right behind each of them is a full-size bed bunk, and very, very comfortable. No windows, but who needs windows, right?
No, not when you're
trying to sleep.
Yeah, that's right.
We need them when we're trying to land and take off. But anyway, very good. Thank you, Miles, for your questions. Hopefully that answered them satisfactorily. Pre-buy, you know that guy, Don Sebastian, wrote in and said, have you seen this video? This is another video from Captain Warren Vanderberg, the guy that does the Children of the Magenta videos. And basically he's talking about a term called crossover angle of attack, or crossover AOA. And he writes, this was before they found the problem of the single rudder boost on the 737, or the hard over rudder on the 737s, causing 2 fatal approach crashes. Before I go to work on an airliner, I ask these questions. Is the roll situation possible on your Mad Dogs or other model airliners? No, it never happened on other than the single boost 737 airliners, but I think never say never, because spin training is not recommended in an airliner. So basically he does a presentation of it's essentially rudder effectiveness, and when the airplane is under a load and you get below a certain speed, then you enter the crossover angle of attack realm, where the angle of attack is so high that it basically makes your rudder ineffective. Actually, no. It makes your wings, your ailerons, ineffective, and the rudder is the most effective. Anyway, it's kind of hard to describe. But
the dihedral effect of overcomes your ability to stop the airplane from rolling.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the most impressive, and basically what Captain Vanderberg is trying to tell everybody, is that if you're in a situation and you have the altitude to do it, instead of trying to continue to increase your angle of attack and pull back in increasing your pitch, that in these situations you have to do something that it might be not instinctive, which is to actually unload the airplane. And as soon as you unload the airplane, now you have your roll capability back. And that was demonstrated to me.
Just for everyone else, what do you mean by unload the aircraft?
Unload means like push forward on the yoke or the stick.
Right.
To kind of to go almost into like a 0G, not necessarily have to go all the way to 0G or negative Gs, but just to not take the G loading off of your wings. And that was one of the rides that I remember most vividly in the T-38. One of our early rides in the airplane was a rudder confidence ride or maneuver, where they showed how when the airplane was not under a load, you could almost put in full rudder and it would hardly have any effect at all. And then as soon as you started G'ing up the airplane, then the rudder became very effective, and you could do aileron rolls by just increasing the loading on the wings. And then if you wanted to stop the roll, you pushed forward, you unloaded the loads on the wings, and then all of a sudden it stopped rolling, even though you were still holding in your rudder. I hope that makes sense. I know it's kind of hard to kind of picture unless you've done something like this yourself, but I know that Captain Nick knows all about this stuff, because this is something
actually,
that...
to tell the truth, I'm just going to say that doing this without the diagrams and movies that
right.
this guy and he is a brilliant instructor. That this chap you're talking about, I've forgotten his name.
Captain Warren Vanderberg.
Yeah, exactly right. He speaks so well. His explanations are so clear and concise, and I would just recommend anyone that's got a vague interest in it to just look at the video, because he tells it much better than I could.
Yeah, it is really, really captivating, and it makes me want to go back and look at every single video that this guy did.
All of his videos are great.
He's that good. Oh, you know what? By the way, that just reminded me of something. You know, Captain Vanderberg, especially in The Children of the Magenta, his thing is click, 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 click. You know, just fly the airplane. That was my favorite part of the Sully movie, was that flashback to him when he was doing his initial training. You know, in his general aviation days. Do you remember what I'm talking about in the movie? And what his instructor said to him? I'm not going to say anything else, but just watch it. As soon as you see that flashback of him learning how to fly as a very young person,
excellent
and his instructor,
advice.
Very sage advice. And you've heard it here many, many times.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, well, maybe not here first, but you heard it here ad nauseum. Anyway, well, good question, Don, and we'll put a link to that video in the show notes, and everybody else can check it out. And as Captain Nick says, really, there's no way to do it justice on an audio podcast. All right. This is from Joe in Buffalo. Does somebody want to do this one?
I'll read it. Sure.
Okay.
So Joe in Buffalo says, "Hey, Captain Jeff and APG crew. With the recent release of Sully the movie, which tells the story of U.S. Airways 1549, which you talked about extensively at the beginning of this episode if you've missed that, I was just wondering if you could perhaps talk about the story of United Airlines Flight 232, which many people may not remember, and I personally feel that the aircrew were just as much heroes as the crew of U.S. Airways 1549. I am amazed at the remarkable airmanship that was displayed in order to get the plane on the ground in Sioux City, Iowa. While unfortunately there was tragically loss of life in the ensuing crash, many passengers survived because of the crew. I know that the crew continued to fly with United Airlines for a number of years afterward, and Captain Al Haynes became a motivational speaker afterwards. I had the pleasure of attending one of his speeches in 1998. Thank you, Joe in Buffalo." So, just quickly, the event he's talking about, United Airlines Flight 232. That was a DC-10, and I believe it was 1989. Does that sound right to everyone? Because I looked at it briefly before. So, and basically what happened was there was an uncontained engine failure of the tail-mounted engine of the DC-10 that resulted in complete hydraulic loss of all three hydraulic systems. Correct?
Yes.
And if I'm messing this up, please correct me.
No, I think they lost all of them.
Yeah, and they were going from Stapleton to Chicago, and basically ended up. It was kind of a forced landing in Sioux City, but they only had control of the aircraft in, was it left turns, right turns? They could only turn the aircraft in one direction because of the way the hydraulic system was impacted, and they basically had to make a series of turns that basically directed them to the airport, and it wasn't a great landing, but like he points out, there was a lot of airmanship and good crew CRM, I guess. Basically.
Yeah, great crew coordination. I love
utilization of all resources.
Absolutely.
There was an instructor.
They got a training captain who had been deadheading to come on the flight deck and help them. And the only control they really had was using the two wing-mounted engines to pitch the airplane, because, of course, they're mounted on pods underneath the wing. So when you increase power, the nose will come up. When you decrease power, the nose will go down. And to turn the airplane by putting differential power on. But just a remarkable job.
So now we fast forward into the future. We have airplanes flying without pilots. What would happen if that situation occurred?
Yeah, very good point.
Is there any computer that would have programmed that particular set of circumstances? No. That would have been a complete
loss. It was trial and error as they were flying it to figure out what they could do to actually control the aircraft. They didn't know at first what they had available to them.
Yeah. I
Jennifer says it was.
Sorry. When I was going through flying training to get my current job, it was one of those example that they quoted, examples that they quoted, where just show the crew coordination required between the three of them to establish control of the aircraft, and how the captain separated himself from the other two guys who were doing difficult tasks, and he kind of oversaw how they were going to adopt the general plan, but he left the specific jobs to the other two guys on the flight deck. And between all of them, they just did such a wonderful job. And put those guys, in almost any situation, I think they'd have done a very, very good fist for whatever emergency you get. And those were remarkable pilots. Very impressed.
Yes, they were all heroes. You are right, Joe in Buffalo. Thank you for pointing that. And there are several instances of these kind of heroics, saving lots of lives. And 1549 and 232 are just two examples. Moving on, Nick writes, so he sent a link to a YouTube video where a Mad Dog is coming in for a landing, and it deploys its thrust reversers just before it completely touches down after a quick bounce during landing. And he said, "Is this normal? Thanks." And well, hopefully no, not normal, but occasionally you will bring an airplane in and do an incomplete round out or incomplete flare and hit the runway with a little bit more force than you expected. And depending on the airplane, it usually happens more on the narrow body airplanes that don't have the truck landing gear systems, which tend to absorb more of the energy when you're landing. And sometimes you can find yourself bouncing back in the air, and that's kind of a precarious situation to be in. And in this case, I don't think that the crew expected that they were going to bounce and get airborne again, and that they had already gotten to the point in their habit pattern to put the reversers out once they felt that first touchdown. But in this video, you'll see the airplane is actually flying back up, and the reversers are coming out and they're deployed. And I think that he was sort of asking, can you deploy thrust reversers in flight? And it depends on the airplane. But one airplane example that comes to mind, that not routinely, but it wasn't unusual for the crew to actually deploy thrust reversers on 2 of the 4 engines, the DC-8, if they needed to come down very, very quickly. And they said, people that I've talked to that have flown the airplane that said that they've experienced 2 of the reversers coming out in flight, they said it's not a very pleasant thing. It shakes the airplane like crazy. It feels like it's about to come apart. On my airplane, if I just decided to reach up and pull the throttles to idle at 30,000 feet and deploy the thrust reversers, I could. Probably be the only time I'd ever do that, because probably wouldn't make it out of that if I did it, and I'd probably get in a little trouble as well. So there's no reason to do that in flight, but you can on my airplane. Now, I think there are other airplanes, maybe Captain Nick, the airplane that he flies, an example where there might be some logic where it says, you're not going to deploy these thrust reversers unless I have this, this, and this satisfied. Like, ground.
Most aircraft require a secondary system to prevent them being accidentally deployed in flight, because they can be very dangerous to do so, particularly if you get them on wing-mounted engines, where they'll create an awful lot of turning force, a lot of yawing force, which can be impossible to control. So right. Most of them have an interlock that prevents you from deploying them until the wheels have touched the ground. So you need weight on wheels. The weight on wheels switches, do a lot of clever things. So a lot of them will do that. Having said that, if you get them out when the weight on wheel switches have activated and then the aircraft bounces, they won't go back in again. You'll have them out, but it's as long as you apply full thrust, it shouldn't be a major problem. And even if you did, you're probably not going to bounce too high. So I don't see a problem. But my personal feeling is, just in case you have a bad bounce and you want to reject the landing, I don't pull the thrust reversers until I am settled on the runway. And that's my personal thing, because I think if you're too keen to get them out, you can get yourself into all sorts of trouble. So, and there is no huge rush. You've got several seconds before you need to get them out. And most of our landings are predicated on not having them anyway, just in case they don't deploy. So, we're going to land safely without them. So what's the big deal? Why you put yourself in the situation where you could end up trying to go around, but the thrust reversers have started to deploy, and that would then be a nightmare.
Right. Very good point. I was just trying to think, the Gulfstream aircraft, a business jet manufacturer, had one of their airplanes modified for the shuttle, the shuttle rockets that we used to have. When they go up and train on these things, I thought, I could be wrong about this, but I think to get that steep descent rate to kind of simulate what the space shuttle was going to experience on re-entry into the atmosphere and coming in for a landing, they actually deployed thrust reversers on that, but I could be wrong about that. But it was such a steep angle of descent coming down that to keep it from going too fast, they had to have some kind of drag to prevent that. But
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I could be wrong about that, but that just came to mind. Yeah, I think that's a good technique to have, Captain Nick. Make sure that the airplane is definitely on the ground before you deploy the thrust reversers, because they don't have a huge effect on stopping. I mean, they do have an effect, but not as a great effect, an effect as braking.
No, we tend to use them on idle unless there's a good reason, and the only reason really for not using full thrust reverse is because we've got a short turnaround, and if the wheels get too hot, then you can't take airborne and get airborne again until they've cooled. So short turnaround, yeah, we'd use more thrust reverse because obviously you then need less brake, and that keeps the brake temperatures down a bit. But generally speaking, we only use them at idle, so not a big deal.
All right. Just a quick break. Is my audio still okay?
Yeah,
it's been fine.
Okay, good. Because
what you're saying is rubbish, but the audio sounds good.
Thank you. Not the quality, just the quantity. That's snort-worthy right there.
Apparently so.
Okay. So the reason why I'm asking is because we're going to play Plain Tales next. So
we'll let you know if it becomes not as good.
Okay. Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, this week's episode of Plain Tales by Captain Nick Anderson.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. The Elise Anderson interview, part 2.
Now, this is a continuation of the interview I started on episode 235, talking to Elise Anderson. She's a young lady who is learning her flying trade in Western Australia, and she currently works as a flying instructor at Jandakot Airport. And we're going to pick up the interview when we start discussing her flying there. Now, I had no idea Jandakot was such a big airport. It's pretty busy here, and it must be quite daunting for new students. So can you explain to the listeners a little bit about the environment here?
Jandakot Airport is said to be, and please don't quote me, the second busiest airport in the Southern Hemisphere, and that is second to Kingford Smith, which is the international airport in Sydney. Jandakot is mostly used as a training airport. We have small aircraft up to small jets. And in Western Australia, we do have a pretty serious fire season. So in the summer seasons, we do get a lot of the firebombing activity, fixed wing and helicopter. We have 3 runways here too, which are parallel. And we are also the home for the China Southern Airlines pilot training. So they send their pilots over from China to do their training here, as well as at a country town in Western Australia. So there's quite a few of them around, plus our own students, which are commercial students and private students. Couple of schools on the trip, couple of schools on the Strip, and that's all mixed in with the Royal Flying Doctor Service, who operate out of Jandakot. So pretty entertaining place to be.
Absolutely, it's certainly busy. Sitting there looking out of the windows, there are aircraft moving all the time. Going back a little bit to airliner flying, which is kind of where our program aims, and thinking back to your studies you did during your university degree, are you comfortable with the way modern aircraft protect their pilots from mistakes, or does it concern you? Are we over-automated in the flight deck nowadays?
Quite possibly, yes. However, I think that recent newsworthy aviation incidents and accidents have made it quite clear that anyone and everyone is welcomed into the cockpit of an airliner. And I do think that a lot of the systems that are in place for those aircraft make it quite difficult for some people to carry out intentions, whether they be good or bad. Now, I think that possibly the systems are designed for your dumb pilots, to keep everyone safe, but I think it's also a little bit mind-numbing for your switched-on pilots who do the job for the love of flying.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you there. The cost of training is a huge burden for someone trying to make their way through to fly an airliner. Many smaller airlines pay quite poorly, so it can be a difficult task. Do you feel somehow the industry should be assisting young pilots to step up in their careers?
That would be an ideal situation, but I don't know how realistic. There are a lot of people in this world that have a love for aviation and would love to be a pilot. I think that the cost of it deters the ones who are less serious. I think you really need to want to do something to be willing to spend close to $100,000, certainly in Australia anyway, for a licence. However, in saying that, it does make a very difficult career choice, being that a few years in, you're still struggling to pay bills and sort of get on your way with the current cost of living.
With that in mind, what kind of accommodation are you living in at the moment?
I live in a rental property. I share with another pilot. We live close to the airport, which is not an ideal suburb. Lots of aircraft noise, but that's quite all right. And I do, as I mentioned earlier, still work my jobs as a fitness instructor to pay for that accommodation, as instructing is a challenging way to make a consistent income.
Yeah, it just seems to me that it's a bit hit and miss. You know, you fly when it's there are a lot of students around, but I guess there must be very quiet times of the year, and of course you don't get paid when you don't fly. Is that right?
Most definitely. If the weather comes in, which here very fortunately in Perth, we have a beautiful climate, but we do get stormy weeks and days in the winter. So if the weather's bad or if we don't fly, we simply don't get paid. It is our responsibility to keep our students coming back, so we like to keep them happy. However, being a flying club with lots of members, a lot of our students and our pilots are recreational, and they come down as a hobby when it suits them and their family and their work commitments. So it's quite difficult to have a consistent income from those students, as they might go from flying once a week down to maybe once a month or once every couple of months when their lives get a little bit busier.
That's interesting. So do you feel that flying schools and smaller and even big airlines cash in on pilots' love of flying by taking a bit of an advantage of them?
Yes.
Well, very succinct. We'll try and make sure that the Aero Club doesn't get to hear about this. Now, finally, how do you feel about the way your profession is considered by the public? Has the profession of being an airline pilot or even an instructor been devalued? Are we sometimes our own worst enemies?
Lots of questions there. I think yes and no. I do think that a captain walking through an airport in a crisp white shirt with 4 bars on his shoulders certainly turns heads. I think that it very much still catches the eye of a young child, which to me, when children are young enough to be sort of untainted by society, that to them, in their eyes, is still very much something that they would love to do with their life. It's something that they see as being very special. I think being in the industry, I don't feel very special, because I think that anyone that puts their mind to it and has enough love for it can do it. But in saying that, it's an industry where once you're part of it and you look at sort of the other people, some of whom are very switched on and very intelligent individuals, are being put second to some individuals who are not at the same standard, and that's comes down to a what you know, who you know situation, and it comes down to a right place, right time situation. So it can be a little bit disheartening to see someone who's really worked for it and deserves it not being rewarded because of politics. One of my favourite questions that I get asked as a flying instructor is, when do you think you'll do your commercial licence?
Exactly right. Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting in that seat unless you had one. So you're going to head off this afternoon and do some instructing in the beautiful skies over Perth. It's a gorgeous day here, which is, I guess, pretty typical for most of the year. So what are you going to be doing exactly this afternoon?
Today I have a navigation flight booked in with an early private pilot's licence student. We're planning to go up the coast. I'll be demonstrating low-level flying for the first time. She'll be demonstrating to me a diversion, which we practiced in her nav flight yesterday. We'll be doing circuits at a country airstrip, and she'll have her first experience flying through controlled airspace this afternoon.
Wow, that sounds actually quite fun. I reckon I could take her place and have a great afternoon. Look, it's been fabulous chatting to you, Elise. Very kind of you to give up your time. Any final thoughts before we close this down?
Thank you so much for having me and for giving me the opportunity to share my views and my opinions. I do love the industry, and although I'm not entirely sure where it's going to take me yet, I'm really excited and looking forward to finding out.
Well, that's brilliant. Have a great day. Enjoy your trip this afternoon, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Elise for giving us that interview. It's always nice to speak to the younger pilots that are starting their careers, as I spend most of my time with the old hands who have a rather different attitude towards flying. So congratulations on getting so far, and I look forward to watching your progression with great interest in the future, Elise. Good luck, and I hope all your flying dreams come true.
Another brilliant episode of Plain Tales, and man, she's got a great head on her shoulders. So well spoken, and a lot of wisdom in her words.
Yeah, I love listening to her just describe, what she does, and everything that goes into flight training and her views on where she's going as an instructor and all of that. It's really good.
As someone said, Sandy, in the chat room there, she doesn't mince her words.
Not really.
No. Which is good. Reminds me a lot of Dr. Steph.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, actually. Very forthright lady.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have your own opinions and to be strong in your convictions.
That's exactly right.
It'll take her far.
She's very sure of her opinions, and she talks sense. So she was a great person to chat to. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think, oh, you know what? I need to turn off the overlay. There we go. I think that you asked a very good question, Captain Nick, about are we our worst enemy? And I've made that point several times in the last several years, where in an effort to try to calm people's fears and make people think that our job is easy to do and it's not stressful and anybody could do it, we've kind of done ourselves a disservice by the self-deprecating our abilities and talents and skills that we've honed and developed all over these many years of flying. Anyway, I love. It's
funny, as I was listening, I was drawing so many similarities to medicine too, because that's kind of happened the same way with doctors and physicians, is that we've not been good advocates for ourselves, and that kind of leads to other organizations and agencies starting to take over and regulate and tell you how to do your job, and it's not always a good thing. So you really need to be like we were saying before, confident and sure, and confident in your opinions and your thoughts and convictions, and be willing to be a leader in those ways.
No, I know. I get this all the time on the aircraft because I usually wander around the cabin and stretch my legs during a flight because you can't stay cramped up in that little room up the front for 8-9 hours at a go, and occasionally engage in conversation with the passengers. And they say half jokingly, make reference to how easy it is to fly, and you just push a button and the airplane does it themselves. And that is such a general opinion, general feeling in the public.
That's kind of funny because I almost get the opposite as a general aviation pilot, or as mostly general aviation pilot. It's like, oh wow, well you must have taken a lot of time and effort, and people are surprised when they find out what it actually involves, because they for some reason think it takes a whole lot more to get from point A to point B. And not to say that it's not a lot of time and effort and energy to put into it, but they think it's I don't know, the equivalent of doctorate degrees and all this time and effort and energy. And like I said, I'm not saying that it's not a lot of time and effort and energy to become a pilot, but the perception is that it's perhaps a whole lot more than what it actually is. And then the next question I always get is, well, when can you take passengers?
Have you taken a passenger yet?
Never.
Take me.
I said, well, when do you want to go? And they go, oh, really?
Oh, really? Can you do that? Are you authorized?
You're qualified to do that?
Steve.
There's
Steve
a lot of misconceptions out there, I think, about what pilots do, and on both ends of the spectrum, like either how easy it is or how not easy it is, and how attainable it might be for someone to become a pilot.
In our chat room during our live recording here, Steve Horn says one of the things that annoys him to no end is when he hears on the PA, the computer says our flight will be blah, blah, blah. And I feel the same way. It's like, okay, yeah, we use computers and stuff like that, but when you say something like that, it kind of tends to make the passenger believe that we're just sitting up there just reading what the readouts are in the computer, and we're not really taking part in this flight at all. It's like just the computers are controlling everything. We're not. Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I hear you. Okay, let's see. What should we do next? I know what we could do.
You could each tell a joke.
We could. No, I can't tell a joke. I mean, I can't. I mean, I don't have the ability to tell a joke. I'm a terrible I'm that guy that either forgets the setup of the joke but remembers the punchline, or remembers the setup but can't remember the punchline. So, I love
between all
hearing
three
them.
of us, maybe we can come up with a complete joke.
Maybe.
Well, hey, two of the remaining feedback are the same thing, aren't they not?
Could be. Which ones are you talking about?
They both are about Southwest 3472.
Oh yeah, well we've already talked about that one, haven't we? No, we haven't.
No, not this particular part. You didn't actually.
No, we didn't. Okay. Well, I think that would be a good thing to do. I think it was both Georg and let's see who sent in this one here. Vince. Georg and Vince both sent pieces of feedback regarding a great YouTube channel which you should subscribe to. It's I'm not sure how you pronounce it, VAS Aviation, VAS Aviation, or it almost looks like VASA Aviation. A great YouTube channel where I'm assuming he or she takes the transcripts or the actual audio recordings of some incidents and kind of does some video stuff in the background as well. Sometimes overlaying the routing that they're taking, like on FlightAware or flight, what was it called, Radar 24, Flight Radar 24, is that right? Anyway, he managed to find some audio, probably from Live ATC, regarding this Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-700 that had the engine issue. And you want to listen to a little bit of that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Engine failure. Lost number one engine. We're descending. Yes, we'll get back to you. Okay, we'll look at it here in just a second. We need to descend it now down to 280. I'm sorry, 260. We can maintain about 260 for now. 260, here we go. 472, we need to get down below 10. Okay, so down to 240, Southwest 3472. Down to 240, 3472, but we're going to need to keep coming down to 10,000. Okay, engine fire, severe damage separation. Auto throttle disengaged. It's disengaged. Thrust lever, exit engine confirmed closed. Engine start lever confirmed cutoff. Engine fire switch confirmed full. Confirmed.
Okay, I'm just going to pause this for a moment. You'll notice that the way they're speaking is a little bit more labored, and it's kind of a little bit harder to hear them, and you hear the sound of an oxygen mask in pressure demand mode, and that is because this incident ended up the engine inlet cowling coming apart, and pieces of it ended up penetrating the fuselage of the aircraft, which caused the airplane to depressurize. So now they're dealing with a depressurization, a rapid emergency descent, and they have their oxygen masks on. Now, the reason why we're hearing them run this checklist is not by design. What happened is when you put your oxygen mask on, you have to reconfigure your interphone panel, and if you don't hit the switches exactly in the right position, you can accidentally do what they're doing here. I think it's the first officer. I'm assuming it's the first officer who was transmitting what he thinks is something that he's doing on the interphone system in the airplane, but he's actually transmitting this on the radio. Now, obviously, each of them can hear this happening, which is good, and I think for us it's good. Not that that's just what they intended to do, to block up the frequency with running the checklist, but the nice thing about this is that we actually get to hear a real-life recitation of an emergency checklist in the Quick Reference Handbook, the QRH, while they have the oxygen mask on, and you can hear how difficult a situation this is, how hard it is for the person reading this checklist to actually read and speak against this positive pressure that's going into their face at this moment. Wouldn't you say, Captain Nick?
Absolutely, Jeff. And not only is it hard to speak, the microphones are incredibly noisy. So that's why we set them to interphone and only move the switch when we're actually speaking, so that when you're not speaking, you don't get this incredibly loud noise. And what the guy is doing is he's just moving that switch the wrong direction, because moving it one way will be interphone, moving the other way will be radio transmit. And you can't actually tell when you're listening to it on the flight deck which way the switch is being moved. One way it just goes out over the airways in addition to be able to hear it. And the thing people don't realize is how claustrophobic it is inside those masks, and how limited your view is, because you're now looking out of a small perspex window pane, and it's really hard to twist your head back to see switches. Masks have a tendency to steam up as well. So really, when you're undergoing one of these emergencies and having to cope with it with a mask on, it limits your ability to think enormously. It halves your brain power, I think, because you're now coping with the environment inside the mask as well as the emergency. So these guys do a brilliant job, I think, considering everything that they're having to put up with.
Right, and if it's now my oxygen mask system on the because I'm flying an ancient airplane, a dinosaur, it's a separate mask and then a separate goggles. So we wouldn't necessarily in this situation have to put the goggles on, but in cases of smoke, where you have to put the smoke goggles on as well, and especially if you're wearing glasses, it gets even worse. It's just it's a mess, and I would think it's a little bit better in the kind of full face masks that Captain Nick has in his airplane, but still, it's an uncomfortable situation.
It is. It's like wearing an octopus on your face. And a couple of points that come out of the chat room here. Steve says it's seriously discombobulating, which is just a wonderful word and a great description. And Troy asks if we practice wearing these masks in your sim sessions. Yes, we do.
Yes, we hate it.
Do you practice it with the positive pressure, though?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
And also with the smoke generators going.
Okay.
And I've been in this situation wearing these masks where there's been so much smoke on the cockpit that I've had to stand up out of my seat and press my face against the overhead panel to try and read the switches so I can turn things. So you can end up in some pretty dire situations in the simulator or otherwise. But the trick is you train hard, and when it happens for real, it should be easier.
Yeah. And I think, most of us haven't had that experience or even that training, but I think the closest thing that it comes to, if anyone's been in a really, been outside when it's been seriously windy or gusty and you have wind coming straight into your face, or if you've been in a situation where you're traveling at high speed in an unprotected environment, so there's no windshield in front of you, like if you're skiing downhill quickly or if you're jumping out of an airplane, you get that same sensation of wind rushing at your face, and the first few times it happens, you almost feel like you can't catch your breath, like you can't breathe. And it's hard to train yourself how to breathe with that, positive flow of air into your face. And that in and of itself can be enough to really be disorienting and confusing and preoccupy your mind, I think. So to imagine all that other stuff going on, possibly smoke, the mask fogging up, and having to run checklists and be under a high-stress situation on top of all of that, that's just a lot to have to deal with.
And of course, the classic is the masks, or the visors on the masks are usually protected by a rip-off film, and everyone forgets to tear that off. So you're looking for a bit of
can't see anything.
It's like, why can't I see anything? Oh, get that off. Okay.
So again, just to reiterate, this again was not their intention to broadcast this on the radio frequency, but I'm so glad that they did, because this is one of those unique opportunities for us to hear a real-life situation happening and them going through this quick response or quick reference checklist. And even though it seems, when you look at the thing and you're not, you don't have a mask on and goggles and everything else, it sounds like it'd be a very easy thing to do. And you'll see how difficult it is to go through these checklists. And you want to listen to some more of this? I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
That's it. Confirm. Manual mark, the engine fire switch pressure override in full. If the engine fire switch override is eliminated, it is not. And go down to the line.
Okay, when we're down to the line, he's looking at this checklist, and on the checklist he gets to one item, and it goes to a line, and then that's usually a place where they have to make a decision. There's like a decision tree, and you either, if this happens, then you go this on this page, or if this step. If this happens, then you go to this step. So you have to be very, very careful that you don't rush through these things, because you could possibly take the wrong road and end up getting into a situation that you didn't intend.
High airframe vibration occurs and continues after the engine is shut down. Okay, without delay, reduce airspeed, descend to the safe altitude to which an acceptable vibration. Note, if vibration returns and further airspeed reduction and descent are not practical, increased airspeed may reduce the vibration. Okay.
That was Houston Center saying you're transmitting.
And we'll give you a gas, fuel, and all that in just a minute.
Okay, I think at this point now they're at a lower altitude and they can take their masks off, so it sounds like they're transmitting normally.
Houston, Steph is 3472. Can you give me that frequency again, please? Let's go approach Southwest 3472. Southwest 3472, pencil approach to South Simmers 3008. Expect visual approach runway 8. 3008, and you said expected runway? Visual approach runway 8. Visual runway 8, thank you. Southwest 3472, was the right or left engine and fuel and souls on board, if you could give that to me. Okay, it's the left engine, and souls on board are 99, and fuel, 2.5 hours of fuel on board.
Actually, he still has the mask on because you can hear it, but I think because they're at a lower altitude that the pressure demand is less, so that's not quite as difficult to speak.
Southwest 3472, roger, descend and pilot discretion, maintain 9,000. Pilot discretion 9,000, Southwest 3472. Okay. Alright. On APU. On APU. Northeast start, 120, 6 get us 11. Balance steel is needed. Transponder to TA, I did that. Isolations are after the fire has been extinguished. It's land near suitable airport. Do not use fuel FMC predictions. See, down oxygen 100%. Fuel indications are established. Pressurization mode selected to manual. Flow valve switch hold in closed position until closed. It is closed. The 7 is under control. Passenger signs on. Okay, it's closed. The cabin altitude is uncontrolled.
Okay, you can see that now this transmission of the checklist on the frequency is causing a little bit of problem because you can hear the controlling agency trying to transmit to let them know that they're transmitting on the frequency, and I think they're actually trying to give them some instructions, but the crew can't hear any of that because they're transmitting their interphone on the radio frequency, if that makes sense.
Passenger signs up.
Southwest 3472, descendant positive pressure, maintain 4,000.
Southwest 3472.
And Southwest 3472, say altitude.
We're out of 13.3 right now for Southwest 3472.
Southwest 3472, roger. Southwest 3472, Delta Star, landing runway 1060 at 6, visibility 10, 4,000 scattered, altimeter 3000. You can expect runway 8.
Alright, we got all that, 300. Give me if you could give me a vector out to the east a little bit and then bring us back in, we'd appreciate it.
Southwest 3472 for now, heading 040.
040, Southwest 3472. 040. Okay, passengers,
and Southwest 3472, when able, heading 040. Southwest 3472, pencil. Southwest 3472, stay altitude, and when able, heading 040.
Alright, we're going to come left 040, and we're out of 10 now for 4,000, Southwest 3472.
Southwest 3472, roger, fly heading, actually, descend and maintain 3,000, positive discretion.
Discretion at 3, Southwest 3472.
Rescue 110, they are coming from the west. We don't have which runway they have requested yet. I would expect runway 8 for now.
Roger that. Could you update me so I can move to a standby position?
Rescue 110, roger, will go. Rescue 112, ground. Rescue 112 and Rescue 110 proceed into the moving area. Full short of the runway, please.
Central ground, Skyhawk 20600.
Okay, I think that's enough of that. You can listen to the entire thing, and it really does benefit you if you actually view this VAS Aviation presentation, because he did a really nice thing by providing the actual pages from the QRH, and so when this guy is going through these checklist items, he's got like this little hand that's kind of pointing to where they are in the checklist, and so you can kind of sit there and read the checklist with him and see how easy or difficult it is under these conditions.
Have you listened to the whole thing, Jeff?
I did. I got a little bit further than that, but I haven't listened to it all the way to the end.
I was just wondering what your thoughts, because the wind was favouring runway 8. I'm not familiar with this airfield, but they chose to land on the southerly runway rather than the easterly one, and I just wondered whether that was just their heightened position or whether that was a longer runway. I was just curious to know why they didn't choose the kind of in-use into-wind runway.
I think that, and I fly into Pensacola quite often, I believe the north-south runway is a little bit longer, not a lot longer, and it has a precision approach. I don't believe runway 8 has a precision approach.
Okay, well that might well, because they took an ILS to that one. So
right, and I think also because looking at the ground track, that they just needed the extra room as well to lose some of that altitude.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah, I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have asked for 1.7.
Right.
So anyway,
if it's the main instrument runway, it's probably got the best lighting, the longest. You know, that's obviously the reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandy says in the chat room, another silly question. Would it occur to you that you hadn't heard from the controllers in a while, or are you so busy with the checklist that it would pass unnoticed? I would say the latter. You're so busy trying to run checklists and do an emergency descent and communicate with the flight attendants and passengers and everything else that the fact that they hadn't heard from air traffic control in a while because they were blocking air traffic control on the frequency, I don't think they would notice, or any of us
and
would.
I don't know if we specifically said or just said in the chat room, but if you're the one talking and transmitting, you're not hearing all that high-pitched squealing noise.
Right.
So they wouldn't know that they were trying to communicate with them.
Right.
In addition, good controllers will actually trouble you as little as possible.
Right.
So they won't actually be wanting to speak to you, and any pilot that knows that when there's an emergency going on their frequency, they shut the hell up so that it'll let the emergency aircraft have priority over everything else, and they'll only make a transmission themselves if it's vital. So the guy with the emergency gets the priority.
Yeah, and you'll notice it. I never actually heard the controller say, hey, by the way, you're transmitting over the frequency. You know, that wasn't something that was, they weren't going to bother them with that just at that moment.
It was almost like they have so much going on in that airplane, we're not going to bother them with that.
We'll get to them when we need to get to them, and they'll get to us when they need to get to us.
And I also noticed that there was a little bit of sense of urgency in even the air traffic controllers' voices. The pace at which they were issuing instructions was a little bit more urgent than you normally hear from an ATC guy or girl.
But I realize why that occurs, of course, because your adrenaline goes up when there's an emergency on your frequency. But of course, we should all try and fight against that, because trying to get air traffic or requiring air traffic to repeat instructions because they're speaking now a little faster and more excited than before is exactly the wrong thing to do. If anything, everyone should kind of slow themselves down a little bit, make sure when they do communicate, they do it clearly and just only need one transmission.
Exactly. Wow. I mean, that was, we had talked about this incident a couple of episodes ago, but having this is really just brings the whole thing to life. It just gives it so much more depth, and the feeling that they were feeling at the time, like, wow, my adrenaline's going up listening to this.
It's always interesting to listen to these things in real time, because then you get more of a sense of, oh, this happens fast. It's when you read about it, you have a chance to sit down and kind of dissect it piece by piece and play armchair quarterback and have some 20/20 hindsight to things, but it really brings it more to light when you see it in real time.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just goes to show the workload on the guys. When you just hear the radio transmissions, you have no idea what's going on the flight deck, and being able to hear the checklist being read, the guys, of course, and that doesn't include all the thinking processes going on with both guys about how they're going to get the aircraft onto the ground, the best way of doing it. It doesn't include the PAs communicating to the cabin crew, all the other things that the crew are trying to do at the same time. So this kind of brings it into perspective.
It's great to have y'all's insight too, because you can really paint that picture of what it looks like and feels like up there on the flight deck, as opposed to even just listening to it on the ATC audio.
Yeah, it's one thing for us to explain to you what it's like, but then when you actually hear it yourself, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you put all that together, and it paints such a great picture.
It really does.
Yeah,
so
I must admit, we tried to instigate a system where our senior cabin crew would sit in on our simulator sessions, so that they would get a better comprehension of the workload we're under when we do get a problem. Unfortunately, there was a lot of kickback from the pilots who didn't actually want to be observed. I would personally have been very happy, but some guys weren't, so it was never instigated. But I always thought that would have been great instruction for the cabin crew, so that they understand why sometimes you can't make a timely PA, why you can't answer their interphone when they want to know what the hell's going on, because of everything that's going on the flight deck. And it's one of the problems of having only two pilots nowadays. In the old days, when you had a flight engineer or possibly even a navigator or a radio operator in addition, the workload could be shared. Now with just two pilots, It really is a full-on occupation when you've got an emergency. Even a small emergency can be very absorbing.
Yes.
Well, we talked about earlier just the level of professionalism that goes along with being a pilot. This is one of those situations that really illustrates that, and I think if more people had a chance to see this type of thing, that would really bring more awareness to the fact that, yes, your pilots are professionals. They need to be there. They're there for your safety. There's a lot of critical thinking skills that go into handling emergencies like these, and you can't replace that.
Yeah,
exactly right. Hey, we had that kind of program at Acme Airlines years ago. I mean, before September 11th, 2001, where we would have flight attendants on the working crew, if it was a big enough crew, where they could come in and sit in the jump seat, the cockpit jump seat for takeoffs and landings and part of the climb and departure and approach and landing phase. And that was usually an eye-opener for them. They just didn't realize how much was going on up there during those phases of flight. And I hope that we get back to doing that again, but things kind of changed.
I mean,
we still do, Jeff.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, we're still allowed to have the cabin crew on the flight deck.
I think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think, and then Nick, have you gone back to serve meals and beverages in the back to see what it's like for them?
I have done in the past. One of our captains used to regularly take a little bit of time off and help clear in after a meal or something, and that's the mucky job when you go around with a bag and pick up he used to do that, and the company actually told him off. He said, No, sorry, mate. This is all very good, but you need to be where you ought to be.
we actually need you to do your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
What we're paying you to do.
The FAA says the only reason why you can leave the cockpit is for physiological reasons. So, anyway. So thank you both again, Georg and I forgot again who said that.
Vince,
other one.
Vince.
Like Vince. Thanks for sending in that link to VASA Aviation. And again, please, if you're listening to my voice right now, please do yourself a favor and watch this YouTube video. I think you get a lot out of it. Okay, Captain Nick, what do you have against Gatwick? What is it? What does it have? What is that? A burr up your
It's
bottom?
just that I don't go there very often, Jeff. So whereas Heathrow is I know it backwards now, so I can park up, I can get in and out easily. I don't have to concentrate too much. Gatwick's and a bit of an anathema. The car park's in a strange position. Everything's different about how you check your bags in and where how you get down to the aircraft. You've got to remember so many different things to do there. Considering it's another of our main bases, and the departures are all wacky.
Well, Derek wrote in and said, you were talking about that on our last episode, 236. He says, taking into account where you live, Nick, I would have thought that Gatwick would be easier for you, but obviously from a pilot's point of view, you must have good reasons to say that. So I was just wondering why it wasn't your favorite place to fly out of, and you've just explained it very well.
I'm exactly the same distance, exactly 50 miles from both airfields.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to Gatwick is cross-country, which takes me a bit longer, but in rush hour it's actually slightly quicker. So that's not really a consideration. It's just familiarity. And the other problem is, of course, Heathrow has 2 runways. Gatwick, in theory, has 2, but you can't treat it like a 2-runway airport. So when we get to that difficult decision of whether you're going to burn your diversion fuel when you're coming into these airfields, because you might be a bit tired or might be excessive delays, you can't really do that at Gatwick because someone blocks that one runway. There's not really an alternative, whereas I can do it with a reasonable amount of confidence at Heathrow because it's got 2 completely separate runways with independent instrument approaches.
Okay. He ends his feedback with saying, sorry I missed you all at Farnborough. I was planning on attending the meetup, but had a horrific experience taking 2.5 hours trying to get out of the car park at the air show. Yikes. So hopefully next time. Yeah, it was pretty crowded.
Yeah, sorry we missed you, Derek. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Would have liked to have seen you.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have met you, Derek. And finally, we haven't really mentioned in passing we did, but we really didn't specifically address the fact that yesterday was a big anniversary. 15 years ago, September 11th, 2001 occurred, and this came in from Anthony. He says, "Dear APG crew, today," of course he was writing this yesterday, "marks the 15 years since 9/11. Wanted to say our hearts are still with the families and friends of lost ones from that horrible day that impacted all of our lives. Being only in my 20s, I haven't been around long enough to really remember much on what happened that day, and I'm sure you all remember more than me. But what happened? I'm not saying you're old or anything." Yeah, he is.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks. For a day that impacted aviation so much, as we known it along with our country, I've always wondered what commercial and general aviation were like before that day. I'm sure so much has changed. And also for you, Jeff, were you flying that day? No, Frank, I was on a layover actually. Or does anyone want to share a story of what they were doing in 9/11? It's always good to raise awareness about 9/11 for new and old aviators out there, to remind us all every day how fortunate and how strong we all are. Thank you, and I wish you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. God bless. Anthony, yeah, a lot of things have changed since 9/11. The way we approach security has changed dramatically. The way we used to nonchalantly open the door to the cockpit during flight and not really worry about anything has changed, especially in the United States. We've been operating with the locked cockpit door ever since. Anyway, I mean, I could go on and on and on of all the things that have changed, but you guys want to say anything about that before this will be our last piece of feedback before we...
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows where they were on that day if you were old enough to remember that day. I wasn't a pilot at the time. I was actually in my sophomore year of college. But we were actually just brought up this the other day, and it didn't even have anything to do with, 9/11 in particular, but I was trying to recall a specific instance when what year it was when I had my mother come to visit me during my freshman year of college. And the reason I could remember it was before 9/11 was because I remember taking her to the airport, going with her through security all the way to the gate, waiting with her at the gate, watching her get on the plane. And you can't do that anymore. So it's just those little things. You have to leave your family at the at security. You can't take all your liquids through anymore. The things that seem like kind of minor inconveniences now, we used to just really take for granted. So
right. Main man Micah in the chat room says that on the Airplane Geeks podcast, there was a nice piece on that on the last episode of that great show. So you should check that out. The CW network says, whoever this is, TV didn't exist back then.
15 years ago?
Yeah. Okay, he's exaggerating a little bit. Also, First Officer Jeff, a big member of our APG community, wrote a letter, and I've read that several times on the show to kind of relay his experience on that day. And if I can, I'm sure it's on my hard drive somewhere.
Yeah, he posted every year on Facebook about a week in advance of September 11th, and this year it was shared by several people on both Facebook and Twitter. I know the Plane Talking UK guys have shared it, and some other people did as well. So, looking forward. It's a great piece. It's worth reading. It kind of captures, the mood, the tone, the thoughts everyone has, and then his specific situation, because he was flying on that day. So.
Right. I think if I can find it, I'll include it in the show notes. Again, that's airlinepilotguy.com/237 when I finally get this thing published in audio form.
I was heading east that day, so I remember standing ironing my uniform shirt, watching the impacts in the towers happening live, and then climbing into my uniform and go to work to take a flight out to Hong Kong, because that course wasn't affected. But I was, and I remember throwing my logbook into my suitcase so that I could bring that up to date, because I was sincerely feeling that there was going to be a severe disruption in the aviation industry, and I might be looking for a new job. So that went straight through my mind. And of course, afterwards we shared stories and spoke to all the crews that had been diverted, and especially those who'd gone to places like Gander and place in Newfoundland.
Well, I'm sure you had quite a few crews that were on their way to New York.
Absolutely.
That day.
There were immediately landed, and what was rather touching was some of the stories of how wonderfully the crews in these remote airfields were looked after by the local people when suddenly hundreds upon hundreds of unexpected passengers arrived on their doorsteps when there wasn't even a hotel, and people were being put up in gymnasiums, in local homes and things. There was an awful lot of very touching kind of good news stories that came out of it, as well as the horrors that occurred in New York.
Yeah. Lots of great stories out there, and you're right. These towns that took in these strangers and treated them as their family was just, so many times when disasters occur, the other side of the coin is the way that people react, the humanity and the,
get to see the best
love
of humanity.
So great question, and thanks for letting us remember it a bit, and again check out some of the things that have changed by listening to the Airplane Geeks podcast, and also I'll try to remember to put Jeff's letter in the show notes as well. All right, well, that will kind of wrap up this week's show. I think it was another great show. Thank you so much for all of your listener feedback. That's what really makes this show. And if you want to send feedback to us, several ways to do it. You can go to airlinepilotguy.com, and there's a form there on the website that you can use to send us feedback. If you are more inclined to use a smart device like a smartphone, laptop, tablet device, we have, not laptop, tablet or smartphone, we have applications or apps for both of those, whether it's Android or iOS, and information about that you can find in the show notes as well. And though both of those vehicles have a way to send us feedback. Just plain old email, feedback@airlinepilotguy.com is another way to do it as well. We'd love to hear your audio feedback. If you can record it with your built-in audio recorder on your phone or whatever, or your computer, and then attach it to an email to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com, that's a great thing to do. We all of us like hearing your voice when you ask us a question. Social media, Dr. Steph.
Social media, you can find us on Twitter, all four of us together. That would be Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Miami Rick, and myself at APG Crew, all one word, at APG Crew on Twitter. There's a Facebook page, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. If you want to take part in the never-ending virtual chat room, that is on Slack. And if you would like an invitation to Slack, that's an app that you can get on your mobile device, and you need an invitation to join our chat room there, you can request that from Hillel Glazer on Twitter. You have to send him a tweet at HI11E1 with your email address, and he will send you an invitation to join us there as well.
Jeff, before we wind up, and I know we're about to go, there's something I forgot to mention right at the start of the show.
Yes, sir.
And that was George Nolly and his great podcast, Ready for Takeoff. He was... he honored me by asking me to come with him and do an interview for his show earlier today. So that'll be going out later in the month. And I took the time to look through some of the people he has interviewed in the past, and I was really touched that he would consider an interview with me. There's some wonderful people he's talked to amongst his many interview podcasts. So anyone who's interested,
Okay.
I think Nick is not there anymore.
Okay.
I was wondering, I was like, is Steph moving?
I thought it was me.
I thought it was me too for a second. So.
Okay.
Sorry, that was just Nick. Bye, Nick. Good talking to you.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
Oh, he's gone. I thought for sure it was my.
Oh, I thought it was mine too for a second because I was looking at you. I was like, oh, he looks kind of frozen too. I should have
I was just frozen, like in disbelief, like, oh no.
Oh no.
We were so close.
So close. Oh well.
Looks like Nick is trying to rejoin us, but yeah, George and Ollie, great podcast, ready for takeoff, interview format show where he talks with people that have done great things in aviation, including our very own Captain Nick Anderson, RAF fighter pilot, and
definitely worthy of the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's just being modest.
Yes.
But we don't, we're not going to fall for that modesty, Captain Nick.
No.
Yeah. So I can't wait to hear the interview with George. And let's see. What Micah says, when Nick is ready for it to be over, it's over.
It's over. I know. It's very true, Micah. He's just, we're done.
Oh man, it's like a sauna in this room. It's so darn hot. I need to turn the air conditioning back on. No, I turned the AC off so it wouldn't.
Oh, no, I know. You need to turn it back on.
Yeah, I do. I will. But anyway, so you know the drill. Feedback at airlinepilotguy.com, airlinepilotguy.com, the website, and the apps. And I just remembered I forgot to send out push notifications. Darn it.
I know. Well. I realized that about 10 minutes into it as well.
Oh, well.
I'm back.
You know what? I'll try to remember better about that. I'm sorry. I feel like.
Micah, I am literally a hot pilot tonight.
How far did I get before I got?
I don't know. It was to me. It was like blah 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 blah, and then it just stopped.
We got the gist of what you were trying to. Do you want to just give it a quick? Give it a quick plug again.
The entire show. Blah blah blah.
So why don't you do the George?
Quick plug.
Yeah.
One more time.
Why don't you do the
just
whole
recap.
thing? Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Anyway, I just wanted to add, Jeff, that I forgot to mention earlier. I was interviewed by George Nolly and his lovely podcast, which is called Ready for Takeoff. And I'm just looking here for the website, which is George. Oh, that's his email. Damn it. So anyway,
it's going so well.
You can look for readyfortakeoff.com. It'll be there somewhere.
Yeah, just Google it.
Exactly right.
Well, you know what? It'll be in the show notes again. airlinepilotguy.com/237. We'll have a link to George's fine podcast, Ready for Takeoff.
Yeah. Actually, I looked through some of the people he interviewed in the past. He's had some remarkable people. I was very honoured to be amongst them, and I know he's angling to get you and Steph on for an interview before too, and Rick, of course, if we can dig him out of wherever he's hidden.
Who?
Yeah, he's right. Pull him out from under that rock that he's decided to hide under.
Yeah. Okay,
He'll
great. Yeah, he'll be back. We love you, Rick. He's probably not even listening to these shows anymore.
Probably not.
Yeah, he used to. I remember those days when Rick used to listen to the show and send audio feedback. How excited he was to hear my voice. Apparently, that's all over now.
Lost the magic.
The magic is not there.
All gone.
Bring back that love and feeling.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so.
By the way, you know what happened to my broadcast? Exactly 9:32 yesterday, I logged on to the internet in the hotel. 24 hours later, to the second, it decided, right, you've had your ka-ching, your time.
When they say 24 hours, they mean it.
24 hours.
No!
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody who joined us live in the YouTube live chat room.
Keep sending in that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. We do love you, and it's such a great community, and look forward to meeting up with all of you again next week. on the next episode of the Airline Pilot Guys. So have a great weekend, a great week, and clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Yeah,
Take care, y'all.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Woohoo!
All right. Another one in the can. Well, not yet, but it will be.
Well, it only took us an hour to get that one going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't really when the earlier in the week that these things come, it's going to be harder for me to do because I just so busy with everything at home. I really can't take time to get all the feedback all prepared and everything else.
Now you got like 9 days to get the next one out.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah, because
unless you want to record on like Friday or Saturday.
This week?
No.
I didn't think so.
Case, you'll be recording it Wednesday or Thursday next week, like 9 days.
So you have like 9
away.
days. Yeah. See?
You see?
That's how that
Make
math
it
works.
Sounds so easy.
And it'd be probably helpful if your co-host would do a little bit of work.
Nah.
Well,
I don't want to make it so that you don't want to do the show.
He never puts a folder there. He never does anything. I don't know.
Well, I could at least read the feedback before the show.
Well, then where would the spontaneity be,
right,
Dr. Steph?
Right?
Come on.
I mean, you're getting genuine reactions.
Yes.
That's true. And you're very good at covering your ass, Steph.
I know. Hey, that's a skill I have learned well in life.
Yeah. It's all about life lessons.
Many venues.
Yeah. No. This is fine the way it is. This is my undertaking, and the Undertaker is going to take care of me soon.
To be fair, I do read all of this before we get here.
I know you
Sometimes
do.
it's just months in advance.
Yeah.
That's all. So sometimes I've
and that's
forgotten
a reminder to everyone. We're not doing the audio show anymore. This is post show. If you do send us feedback, just know that we do actually read all of your feedback. We try to respond to it if possible, either by answering your question on the show or actually personally sending you email back a reply. But not always. It's just we get so much that it's almost impossible to do that for everyone. But just know that it's not like you're sending something and it's just going off into the the Ethernet or the ether.
Yeah. Actually, I read most emails same day. So pretty much as soon as they come to my phone, I read them. So and if there's something specifically for me, a lot of times I'll write you back. So
yeah. And likewise, whenever my mail comes in, I read it all and I take it on board, and if necessary, fire up a quick reply. So even if we don't get to it in the show, at least you know that we've taken it on board.
Absolutely. Oh, Anthony, I was looking at his post there in the chat room. My schedule next week will be work to get the new iPhone. I looked at that and saw get the new iPhone 3.
That's
and I went, I think it's the iPhone 7 now. You're a little bit
just catching up to iPhone 3.
Yeah.
Have fun with that. I'm sure the operating system on that works well now.
I still have an iPhone 3, 3G, I think. It was a 3G?
Yeah, it was 3G.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. It doesn't work, or at least, well, it probably does. I mean, if I just haven't plugged it in.
The new one's water resistant, so I'm going to have to go get it.
Yeah, well, you have to. You must. You must.
For the lake, obviously.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just makes perfect sense to me.
Anyone want to buy my iPhone 6s Plus?
I don't.
Just kidding.
No, I'm going to wait for
I have one.
iPhone 8.
Be that way.
Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Another early morning for me, but I'll be in Tampa tomorrow and Tampa on Wednesday, and then home on Thursday. So hopefully I'll have all this knocked out and ready to publish first thing Friday morning before I even get home from this trip.
Then you can relax for the weekend.
Oh, Anthony, I thought that I liked you until now. The 3 is like the MD-80.
I was just going to let that one slide.
The MD-80 isn't that good.
There's so much love here.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's
so
just
much
an airplane.
respect.
Just an airplane to me.
Respect.
Oh, somebody, I'm not going to, I don't think I'll cover this on the show, but somebody said, hey, Jeff, since, it was Mike C. from Tennessee. he said, "Hey, so now they're getting rid of the Mad Dogs. I think what you should do is go to the Airbus 3 Series."
Oh yeah, I saw.
A320. I think we should cover that on the show, actually.
Okay, we
Leave that
will.
in.
Reply.
Okay.
Because I think everyone would like to hear your response to that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see my response to that?
No, we want to hear it.
No.
Okay.
Oh,
well, I did reply.
I don't know. Did you reply? I don't think I saw the.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think you're going to know
that
my
didn't come back.
response. That,
I think so.
You said something like dead horses, or wouldn't drag me. No, something like that. Wild horses.
Something to the effect that, well, I'm actually I still have skills as a pilot, so I don't need to waste it on the airplane. You just push buttons. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't say that. I may feel that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it would be an interesting thing to do, except that I'm looking more at seniority and pay rates than I am what particular airplane it is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I'd have thought they'd pay Airbus pilots a lot more than all the Boeing blokes.
Because nobody wants to fly it?
Oh, because you have to be much more handsome.
Okay, yeah, no. Steve says they say they want to get rid of it like in the next 5 years, but I've seen this happen here at this company in the past when they say that they're going to retire something by a certain date. In fact, before I even got on this airplane 14 years ago, they were talking about retiring it way back then. So it's a very dynamic situation, but no, I plan on moving. Well, I'll answer it in a future show.
I don't think they're going to have to retire it, Jeff. I think eventually bits will just start dropping off them, and they'll just sweep them all into the corner.
You're right. That's right.
Just be careful that it sweep you into the corner along with it.
I think that they're thinking about going to the desert and pulling out some of the DC-3s also to kind of add some more seats to the fleet.
No, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, they were. Virgin used to have, so I gather, this airline that I know used to have a DC-3 fleet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they used to have vintage airline flights.
Oh,
so it was all sort of retro, and all the girls in retro uniforms. And
when was Virgin established? Virgin Atlantic, that company that is very similar to the one you fly for.
Yeah, that one I've heard of. 83.
Oh, so it's pretty new.
Yeah. I joined it. I joined an airline similar to it after about 10 years.
Okay. We're so sly, aren't we?
Any similarities to real persons and/or airlines are purely coincidental.
Purely coincidental. Okay, I got to stop because I'm burning up, and I need to go to.
I have to go eat dinner.
And then go eat.
I've got 15 minutes before the sushi chef disappears from Ray's.
Go,
you gotta go get some sushi.
I promised myself some sushi.
Sushi.
Okay, guys, thanks for being with us tonight. As always, you're the best.
Brilliant.
We love you.
Love you. Good night.
Bye. Cheers.